Hey guys, tonight we're going to walk into a trap that you can't see. You can definitely hear roar, rather. You can't. We are heading to a fortress where the air is so still it feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for you to slip up. So imagine a place where a sneeze isn't just embarrassing. It's a felony. Where a laugh could get you locked away in a dungeon so deep, the darkness feels heavy on your skin. You're going to need to control your breathing for this one. You probably won't survive a reality check here. Think about your day. How many times did you speak just to fill the silence? How many times did you hum a tune, tap your pen, or curse at a piece of furniture you stubbed your toe on? In the world we're entering, that stubbed toe is a test of character, and failing it means disappearing forever. It's the ultimate introvert's paradise, or maybe a nightmare for anyone who loves the sound of their own voice. So, before you get comfortable and let the quiet take over, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really enjoy my work here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Are you safe in your bed, or are you sneaking this in during a lunch break? Dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for a soft background hum. You're going to appreciate that white noise in a minute, Tand. Let's start tonight's journey together. You are standing at the base of a valley that shouldn't exist. The maps you consulted back in the warm, noisy tavern of the last village were vague, filled with warnings written in fading red ink. The air here is colder than it has any right to be, a chill that seeps through the heavy wool of your russet cloak and settles into your marrow. But it's not the cold that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. It's the acoustics. You're used to the natural symphony of the wilderness, the wind rustling through pine needles, the distant call of a hawk, the chatter of squirrels. But here, the geography itself seems to have conspired against sound. The valley walls are high and composed of a porous, moss-covered stone that swallows noise like a sponge soaks up water. You take a step forward, and the crunch of your leather boot on the frost-hardened gravel sounds like a gunshot. You wince, instinctively hunching your shoulders, waiting for someone to shout at you. But there is no shout. There is no reaction. The silence rushes back in to fill the void you created, heavier than before. You are approaching the gate of the hush, the only entrance to the Forgotten Kingdom. As you walk, you find yourself becoming hyper-aware of your own biology. Your breath hisses in your throat, a sound you've never noticed before. The thump of your heart against your ribs feels percussive, a rhythmic drumbeat that you're terrified might be audible to the sentries you know are watching from the fog ahead. It's a strange phenomenon, really. When you remove external stimuli, the brain amplifies internal ones. It's why you can hear your blood pumping when your head is on a pillow at night. But here, outside, under a gray slate sky, it feels unnatural. You feel like a walking cacophony, a chaotic collection of squeaks, thumps, and rattles intruding on a sacred stillness. You pause to adjust your pack. You spent hours packing this morning, wrapping every metal buckle in cloth, padding your glass water flask with extra wool, ensuring that nothing would clink. It's a trick you read about in an old chronicle, a survival guide for thieves and monks. Speaking of monks, it's worth noting that the history of silence is long and surprisingly loud with debate. Mainstream historical records tell us that the Cistercian orders developed sign languages to keep their vows of silence without interrupting their work, effectively creating a noisy conversation of hands in a quiet room. But this kingdom? This isn't about devotion, this is about survival. The fog begins to thin, revealing the gate. It is a monstrosity of iron and dark oak, towering 30 feet into the gloom. It doesn't look like it was built. It looks like it was grown out of the mountain itself. The metal is black, not from paint, but from age and oil. There's no rust. Rust means neglect, and neglect implies a lack of discipline. Here everything is maintained with a terrifying perfection. 2 guards stand on either side of the gate. They are dressed in tunics of a deep, muted teal, the color of a bruised sea. They hold halberds, the long poles resting on the ground, the axe heads gleaming dully. They are not moving, not even a little bit. If it weren't for the faint puff of mist escaping their nostrils in the cold air, you would think they were statues carved from wax. You hesitate? How do you announce yourself? In any other kingdom, you would hail the gate, shout your name, perhaps bang a knocker. But here to shout is to declare war. You approach slowly, keeping your hands visible. You remember the advice of the old woman at the crossroads? Eyes down, mouth shut, step soft. You stop 5 paces from the guards. You wait. The silence stretches, becoming a physical weight pressing on your chest. You can feel the urge to speak rising in your throat, a bubble of nervous energy that wants to pop. Hello? You want to say I'm here for the tour? But you swallow the words. You swallow the noise. One of the guards, the one on the left, shifts his eyes. Just his eyes. He looks you up and down, scanning for loose coins, jangling keys, or squeaky hinges. He is assessing your acoustic footprint. Satisfied, or perhaps just bored, he lifts one hand from his weapon. He holds up a single finger to his lips. The universal sign for hush. It's a gesture you've seen 1,000 times, usually from a librarian or a tired parent. But here, coming from a man holding a poleaxe, it feels like a threat of execution. You mimic the gesture. You press your gloved finger to your lips. The guard nods, a movement so slight it might have been a trick of the light. He turns to the gate. Now, here's a trivial fact for you. Most medieval gates were incredibly loud. The hinges were made of heavy iron that rusted easily, and the wood warped in the rain, causing them to groan and shriek when opened. It was actually a security feature. You couldn't sneak into a castle if the door screamed at you. But this gate? The guard places a hand on a specific panel. He doesn't push, he leans. The massive structure begins to swing inward. It is absolutely silent. The engineering required to make a 3-ton door move without a sound is baffling. It must rely on a system of counterweights and lubricants that have been lost to the modern world. It glides open like oil on glass, revealing the darkness of the tunnel beyond. This is the airlock, a transitional space designed to trap sound before it can enter the city proper. You step through. It's the moment you cross the threshold, the acoustic environment changes again. You are inside the walls now. The tunnel is lined with thick indigo tapestries that hang from ceiling to floor. They smell of dust and lavender. You reach out and touch one. It's wool, dense and heavy. These aren't just for decoration. They're sound baffles. Historians still argue whether the kingdom's obsession with silence began as a response to a plague where coughing was a sign of death, and thus the sound of the sick became taboo if it was the whim of a mad king who suffered from misophonia, a condition where certain sounds trigger extreme anger. Imagine that. A king who executed people because he hated the sound of chewing. It's debated, but looking at the lengths they've gone to dampen the echo in this tunnel, you start to believe the madness theory. You walk deeper. The light from the outside world fades, replaced by the soft, golden glow of lanterns set into niches in the wall. Notice that the lanterns are enclosed in glass. An open flame flickers and snaps. A flame behind glass is muted. Every detail here has been curated to minimize decibels. You reach the inner gate. There are no guards here, just a small wooden turnstile and a bench. A sign, painted in elegant flowing script, depicts a pair of boots with a red line through them. Next to it, a picture of socks. You understand immediately? You sit on the bench. It's padded, of course. The leather creates a soft shishi sound as you loosen the laces, and you cringe, looking around guiltily. But there is no one here to judge you yet. You slide your feet out of your boots and into the thick woolen socks you brought. The stone floor beneath your feet is polished smooth, but it's not cold. It's heated from below. Radiant floor heating isn't new. The Romans had hypocaust, but here, it serves a dual purpose. Cold floors make you stomp to keep warm. Warm floors encourage a gliding, leisurely pace. They are manipulating your movements through temperature. It's brilliant, really, in a sociopathic kind of way. You tie your boots together by the laces and sling them over your shoulder, checking again to make sure they don't bump against each other. You stand up in your socks. You take a step. Silence. Perfect, blissful, terrifying silence. You feel lighter, ghostly. You are shedding the heavy, clunky acoustic signature of the outside world and becoming a phantom. There is a small basin of water near the inner archway. A plaque above it shows a face being washed. You dip your hands in, the water is warm. You splash it on your face, and the sound of the water hitting your skin sounds like a waterfall in this muffled corridor. You freeze, dripping, waiting for the alarm. But the water drains away into a specifically angled trough that prevents the splashing sound of dripping water. They have thought of everything. You are ready. You take a deep breath, hold it, and step through the inner archway into the city itself. The transition is jarring because of what isn't there. You expect the hum of a city, the distant murmur of crowds, the rattle of carts, the barking of dogs. Instead, you are met with a visual explosion of activity that has been stripped of its soundtrack. It's like watching a movie on mute. Ahead of you lies a cobblestone street, but the cobbles are covered in a layer of tightly woven straw matting. People are moving back and forth, dressed in those same muted earth tones: russet, saffron, teal, gray. They are walking quickly, purposefully, but their feet make no sound on the mats. To your left, a merchant is arranging apples in a pyramid. In any other world, he would be shouting fresh apples, sweetest in the valley. Here he simply holds up an apple, polishes it with a cloth, and catches the eye of a passerby. He raises an eyebrow. The passerby shakes her head. The interaction takes 3 seconds, involves 0 words, and is perfectly efficient. It's mesmerizing. You feel a sudden spike of anxiety. You are an intruder here. You have a voice box that is untrained, a throat that is used to clearing itself, a nose that might sneeze. You are a biological time bomb walking through a museum of silence. You clutch the strap of your bag tighter, your knuckles turning white. You need to blend in. You need to become part of the background. You start to walk down the main street. The architecture is strange, no sharp angles. The corners of the buildings are rounded. Sharp corners create wind noise. Round corners let the air flow smoothly. The windows are narrow and sealed. The roofs are thatched, thick and heavy, absorbing the noise of the wind and rain. You pass a blacksmith's shop. This should be the loudest place in town. You brace yourself for the clang of hammer on anvil. Instead, you see the smith through a wide window. He is swinging a hammer, yes, but he is striking a piece of hot iron that is resting on a bed of sand and lead, not solid steel. The anvil absorbs the ring. The hammer itself is wrapped in leather at the handle to dampen vibration. The sound is a dull thud, barely audible from the street. It's a neutered industry, stripped of its power but retaining its function. You keep moving, trying to match the rhythm of the locals. They move with a fluid grace, like dancers. No sudden movements. Sudden movements displace air, and displacing air creates sound. You realize that silence isn't just a lack of noise here. It's a martial art. It's a physical discipline that every citizen has mastered since birth. And you're a white belt in a dojo of grandmasters? You spot a tavern ahead. The sign depicts a tankard with a cloud floating over it. You are thirsty, and curiosity gets the best of you. How does a pub work without slurred songs and boisterous arguments? You approach the door. There is no handle, just a pressure plate on the floor. You step on it, and the door slides open on those same silent, miraculous tracks. You step inside, and the atmosphere hits you like a physical wave. It is warm, smelling of roasted barley and wood smoke. The room is full. Every table is taken, and yet the only sound is the soft hiss of the fire in the hearth. It's unnerving. People are sitting in groups, drinking from wooden mugs, metal mugs clang, wood thuds softly. They are communicating, but it's a flurry of hands, nods, and facial expressions. It's a high-speed conversation that you can't hear. You feel a sudden, irrational urge to scream. It's just to prove you exist. Just to shatter the glass stillness. It's the call of the void, the same feeling you get when you stand on a high ledge and think about jumping. But instead of gravity, it's acoustics. You bite your lips so hard you taste copper. You are in the kingdom of the hush now, and the silence is already inside your head. You stand there in the center of the tavern, holding a wooden tankard that was slid across the bar to you with the grace of a curling stone on fresh ice. You look around, and the cognitive dissonance is enough to give you a headache. Your brain is wired to associate a crowd this size with a roar, clatter of plates. Yes. The scraping of chairs, the boisterous laughter of someone who's had 3 too many L's. But here the volume is turned down to 0. It's like watching a muted television in a dark room. You take a sip of the ale. It's dark room temperature and tastes faintly of honey and roasted nuts. It's good. You want to sigh in satisfaction, a long awe after the drink, but you catch the eye of a woman at the next table. She's watching you like a hawk watches a field mouse. You swallow the sigh. It goes down your throat like a stone, settling uncomfortably in your stomach. You realize that here, digestion is a private affair, and even a satisfied burp could be considered a breach of the peace. You finish your drink quickly, the silence of the room pressing in on your ears. It's a physical sensation, a pressure change, like being underwater or in an airplane cabin. You leave a coin on the counter, placing it down on a felt pad specifically designed to catch currency without a clinked head back out into the street. Night is falling, and the architecture of the city takes on a sinister, beautiful quality in the twilight. You are looking for a place to sleep. A guest house marked on your map is the softened stone. As you walk, pay attention to the buildings around you. This isn't just aesthetic choice. This is the architecture of the void. Mainstream historical records show us that Roman architect Vitruvius spent his life obsessing over how to amplify sound in theaters, using brass vessels and careful geometry to make sure a whisper on stage could be heard in the back row. The architects of this kingdom did the exact opposite, weaponized Vitruvius's principles in reverse. Instead of amphitheaters designed to throw sound, they built streets designed to trap it. Notice the walls of the alleyway you're walking down. They aren't flat, they're jagged, composed of irregular stones jutting out at odd angles. This is acoustic diffusion. If a wall is flat, sound bounces off it like a rubber ball, creating an echo. If the wall is rough and irregular, the sound wave shatters, scattering into harmless, silent energy. It's the same principle used in modern recording studios, but instead of foam wedges, they used granite and slate. It's beautiful, in a jagged, aggressive way, like the teeth of a stone dragon. You find the guest house. It's a tall, narrow building with no windows on the ground floor. The door is heavy oak, wrapped in leather. You push it open and step into the lobby. If the outside was quiet, the inside is a vacuum. The air here is still smelling of beeswax and dried sage. A clerk stands behind a high desk. He is wearing a robe of deep indigo wool. He doesn't look up as you enter, but you know he heard the door. Rather, he felt the change in air pressure. You approach the desk. You've practiced this. Point to yourself, then make the universal gesture for sleep hands pressed together, tilted head resting on them. It feels childish, like a game of charades you're losing. But the clerk nods solemnly. He produces a key. It's made of wood, dense and polished, hanging from a loop of velvet ribbon. Metal keys jingle. Wooden keys thud. He gestures to a corridor behind him. You nod, your thanks a bow of the head. No words, and step into the hallway. This is where the architecture of the void truly flexes its muscles. The floor is no longer stone or wood. It is covered in a carpet so thick it feels like you're walking on a living creature. It's a deep crimson velvet, plush and yielding. You can feel the weave through your woolen socks. Historians still argue whether the dye used for these carpets comes from a specific crushed beetle found in the caves below the city, or if it's a plant-based pigment that has been lost to time. Either way, the color is the shade of oxygenated blood, and it seems to absorb the light from the lanterns along the wall. You take a step. Sinking. Silence. You take another. It's mesmerizing. You feel like a ninja, or perhaps a ghost. The walls here are padded too, covered in panels of quilted fabric. It's essentially a padded cell, but one designed by a luxury interior decorator. The effect is instant relaxation mixed with mild claustrophobia. Your brain, deprived of the echolocation cues it usually uses to navigate, starts to panic slightly. How big is this hallway? Is there anyone behind me? You can't hear footsteps. You can't hear breathing. If a murderer were sprinting up behind you with a pillow, you wouldn't know until the feathers hit your face. And here's a trivial fact for you. The cork oak tree, Corcus suber, is prized for its bark, which is used for wine stoppers. But in this kingdom, they grow a variant of the tree where the wood itself is spongy and porous. The framing of these walls is likely made from that silent wood, absorbing vibrations from the very structure of the building. If an earthquake hit this city, you probably wouldn't hear the rumble. You'd just see the vases shaking. You find your room, number 7. The number is embroidered onto the door, not carved or painted on a plaque. Everything is soft. You insert the wooden key into the wooden lock. It turns with a dull, lubricated resistance. Thump. The bolt slides back. You enter the room. It is a sanctuary of sensory deprivation. The room is small, round, and windowless, save for a skylight made of thick, distorted glass that lets in the moonlight but no view. The walls curve upward into a domed ceiling painted with gold stars. But look closer at the stars. They aren't just paint. They are tiny holes drilled into the plaster, leading to a hollow space behind. It's a Helmholtz resonator, a device designed to trap specific frequencies of sound. These people didn't just hate noise. They mathematically eliminated it. The bed is low, a mattress filled with down, resting on a frame of that same spongy wood. You sit on it, and it sighs under your wet-a-soft expulsion of air that is the loudest thing you've heard in 20 minutes. You lie back, staring up at the acoustic stars. It's peaceful, yes, but it's also heavy. You start to understand why the people here move so slowly. The silence has a mass. It pushes down on you. It demands that you slow your heart rate to match it. If you were to start singing Bohemian Rhapsody right now, the room would probably reject it, the sound dying flatly against the padded walls, leaving you feeling foolish and alone. But you have to admit, the craftsmanship is incredible. In the modern world, we fill our spaces with hard surfaces, glass, steel, concrete that bounce noise around until our cafes sound like war zones and our offices sound like beehives. Here, they valued peace so much they built it into the mortar. It's an extreme form of self-care. Or maybe it's just a really elaborate way to avoid talking to your neighbors. You sit up. You need to explore a bit more before you sleep. You're not tired, you're wired. The silence acts like caffeine for a brain that's used to stimulation. You leave your room, locking the door with a soft thud, and head deeper into the corridor. The hallway opens up into a larger atrium. This must be the common area for the guest house. The ceiling vaults high overhead, lost in shadows. In the center of the room there is a fire pit, but it's not burning wood. It's burning a type of smokeless, crackless charcoal. The heat ripples the air, but there is no pop, no hiss. Sitting around the fire are 3 figures. Monks, by the look of them, dressed in robes of coarse gray wool. They are reading, but they aren't just reading. They are absorbing. In a normal library, you hear the turning of pages. Oh, snap. Smooth. Here, the books are printed on vellum that has been treated with oil to make it limp and silent. They turn the pages with a slow, rolling motion of the thumb. You watch them. It's like watching a tableau vivant. One of the monks looks up. His eyes are dark, recessed in deep sockets. He sees you standing there in your socks, looking like a lost child in a pajama party for mutes. He doesn't smile, doesn't wave, simply blinks. A slow, deliberate closure of the eyelids, and returns to his book. You have been acknowledged and dismissed in the span of a second. You move to the edge of the room, running your hand along the wall. The texture changes. It's no longer fabric. It's a type of plaster that feels rough, like pumice. This is the sounditer, plaster, a mixture of volcanic ash and horsehair. Historians still argue whether the recipe for this plaster was a state secret, punishable by death if revealed, or if it was just common knowledge that fell out of favor because it was a nightmare to clean. Imagine trying to scrub tomato sauce out of a wall that's basically a rigid sponge. You wander down a side corridor, drawn by a faint light. This passage is narrower, the ceiling lower. You feel the air pressure change again. You are descending. The floor slopes gently downward. The velvet carpet gives way to smooth, sanded wood. You are entering the lower levels of the guest house, perhaps the baths or the kitchens. Suddenly you stop. You hear something. It's faint, incredibly faint. But in this ocean of silence, it sounds like a thunderclap. It's a rhythmic drip, drip, drip. You follow the sound. It's coming from a door that has been left slightly ajar. You peer inside. It's a maintenance closet. A bucket has been placed under a leaking pipe, but someone made a mistake. They used a metal bucket. They forgot to put the sponge in the bottom. Plink, plink, plink. You stare at the droplet hitting the water. It's mesmerizing. That's the most beautiful, rebellious thing you've ever heard. It's a chaotic, uncontrolled noise in a world of order. You feel a strange urge to protect it, to stand guard over this leaky pipe and let it sing its little song of entropy. But then, a shadow falls over you. You turn. It's the clerk from the lobby. He is standing there, holding a thick towel. He looks at you, then at the bucket. His expression is one of profound disappointment, like a parent finding a stash of candy under a diabetic child's bed. He steps past you, moving like smoke, and drops the towel into the bucket. Plink. Silence. The song is over. The rebellion is crushed by a piece of terry cloth. He looks at you again, then points firmly back up the corridor, toward your room. There is no anger in his face, just a weary enforcement of the law. You are a guest, and guests should not be reveling in the pornography of a leaking pipe. You nod, chastised. You turn and head back up the slope, the silence closing in behind you like water filling a footprint. You realize then that the architecture isn't just about the buildings. It's about the people. They have built the silence into themselves. They are the padded walls, or the soundless floors. You return to your room, number 7. You close the door. You lock it. You lie back on the bed. Try to listen for the wind outside, for a cricket, for anything. But there is nothing. It's just the rushing of your own blood in your ears, louder and louder. A personal ocean that you can never escape. You close your eyes, and for the first time in your life, you pray for a snorer in the next room. You pray for a barking dog. You pray for a car alarm. But the Forgotten Kingdom does not answer prayers. It only absorbs them. Morning breaks over the Forgotten Kingdom. Not with the crow of a rooster. Roosters were banned centuries ago for their erratic screaming, but with a gradual, engineered increase in light. In your room, a shutter system controlled by a slow-dripping water clock silently retracts, allowing a beam of pale, filtered sunlight to hit your face. You wake up without a jolt. No alarm clock. No garbage truck backing up outside. Just the light. It's the most gentle wake-up call you've ever had, yet you feel a spike of panic. Without the auditory cues of the morning, the birds, the traffic, the sizzling of bacon, you have no idea what time it is. You could have overslept by 5 minutes or 5 hours. You scramble out of the soft bed, perform a silent, panicked ablution in the basin, and head out. You're hungry, and hunger is a loud sensation in a quiet body. Your stomach gives a treacherous gurgle, and you press a hand against it, whispering a silent plea for it to shut up. You make your way to the town square. The night was eerie, the day is overwhelming. The square is packed. In any other medieval city, this would be a riot of sound. Hawkers shouting prices. Blacksmiths hammering, donkeys braying, children shrieking. Here it is a sea of movement. The air is thick with the smell of baking bread yeast and fire butt. The only sound is the soft shuffling of leather-soled shoes on the straw mats and the rustle of fabric. This is the domain of the Guild of Hand and Eye. You stand on the edge of the marketplace, watching. It looks like a massive, choreographed dance. People are buying, selling, arguing, and flirting, all without uttering a syllable. They are using the kingdom's language, a complex, high-speed sign language that makes American Sign Language look like slow-motion semaphore. Mainstream historical records tell us that the Ottoman sultans in the Topkapi Palace employed a corps of mute servants and pages, developing a sophisticated sign language called Ixaret, so the sultan could conduct business in total secrecy and silence. It was considered the height of luxury to never hear a human voice unless you commanded it. But watching the people here, you realize Ixaret was just a beta test. This is the 2.0 version. The speed is terrifying. Fingers flicker like hummingbird wings. It's not just hand shapes. It's the position of the hand relative to the body, the arch of an eyebrow, the puffing of a cheek. A merchant in a saffron robe slaps his palm, twists his wrist, and points a pinky at the sky. The customer, a woman with a basket of kale, responds by tapping her chin 3 times and narrowing her eyes. A deal is struck. Money is exchanged on the felt pads. You step into the fray, feeling like a tourist who forgot to download the translation app. You approach a stall selling what looks like warm, honey-glazed buns. You point at one. The primitive caveman point. The baker looks at you. He doesn't move. He waits. You point again, more aggressively. You tap your stomach. You rub your tummy like a toddler. The baker sighs a visual sigh. A slump of the shoulders in, makes a quick, sharp gesture with his left hand. 2 fingers across the wrist. You have no idea what it means, but it feels like an insult. He hands you the bun, but he doesn't take your coin. He waves you away. It's pity bread. You've just been given the charity bun because you're too stupid to negotiate. You retreat to a bench, cheeks burning, munching on your pity bun. It's delicious, which makes the humiliation worse. As you eat, you observe a group of men standing near a fountain. They're dressed in the teal tunics of the civil service. They're the silent servants, the bureaucrats who run this place. Their conversation is a blur. They are laughing. You can see it in their shaking shoulders and crinkled eyes, but there is no sound. It's ghost laughter. Here's a trivial fact for you. The human brain dedicates a massive amount of processing power to the hands. If you look at a cortical homunculus, a visual representation of the body based on how much brain power controls each part, the hands are gigantic, monstrous things. The people of this kingdom have tapped into that neural superhighway. They aren't bypassing the language center of the brain. They've rewired it to the motor cortex. You finish your bun and decide you need to learn. You can't survive here on charity. You see a building with a large wooden sign hanging above the door, an open eye in the palm of a hand. The guild hall you walk in. The interior is essentially a library of movement. There are no books, just rows of people sitting across from each other, mirroring gestures. It's a dojo for linguistics. A young woman near the door spots you. She wears the gray sash of an apprentice. She sees your confusion, your clumsy posture, your loud listening face. She beckons you over. She sits you down at a small wooden table. She points to her eyes, then to yours. Watch. She holds up a hand. She touches her thumb to her ring finger. Family. She does it again. You copy her. She shakes her head. You did it too hard. You did it with tension. Family is soft. You try again, relaxing your hand. She nods. Then she touches her index finger to her ear and drags it down to her heart. Listen, or maybe feel. You're not sure. She moves faster. She teaches you the basics of trade. A flat hand slicing the air means half. A fist striking the palm means full. A circular rubbing motion means gold. It's exhausting. Your hands cramp. You realize that your dexterity is garbage. You've spent your life typing on keyboards and holding steering wheels, gross motor movements compared to this fine calligraphy of the fingers. Historians still argue whether the development of such complex sign languages in isolated societies leads to a change in cognitive structure. It's literally altering how the perception of time and memory works, or if it just makes people really good at shadow puppets. Watching The Apprentice, you bet on the former. She seems to be thinking in pictures. Her expressions shifting with a fluidity that spoken language, with its clunky grammar and pauses for breath, can't match. She teaches you a phrase, hand flat against the chest, then pushing outward, fingers splayed. Truth. Then, hand over the mouth, fingers curled. Silence. Truth is silence. The kingdom's motto? She makes you repeat it until your wrist clicks. Then she stops. She looks at you with a sudden intensity. She leans in and makes a new sign. She crosses her index and middle fingers, then taps them against her opposite wrist, right over the pulse point. She looks around the room to see if anyone is watching, then does it again. You copy her. She shakes her head frantically. No. She grabs your hands and holds them down. This isn't a lesson. This is a warning, or a secret. She releases you and goes back to family. Gold. Bread. But the energy has changed. She keeps glancing at the door. Ash. You realize that in a world without whispers, secrets are passed in the open, hidden in the speed of the hand. That crossed finger pulse sign, it was too specific, too urgent. You thank her with a clumsy bow, and the truth is silence gesture. She gives you a tight smile. You leave the guild hall, stepping back into the sunlight. The market feels different now. You're not just watching a movie, you're starting to read the subtitles. You notice a guard standing by a fruit stall. He isn't looking at the fruit. He is watching the hands of a group of students. He is reading their conversation from 30 feet away. This is the danger of the guild of hand and eye. There is no such thing as a private conversation in a public place. If you can see it, you can hear it. Spoken words fade instantly. They have a short range, but a sign. The sign travels as far as the line of sight. A man on a rooftop with a telescope could be eavesdropping on a conversation happening 3 blocks away. Paranoia sets in. You keep your hands in your pockets. You're walking through a city of telepaths. You pass a group of children playing a game. You're sitting in a circle, hands flying. One child misses a sign. The others don't laugh. They simply stop. They stare. The child hangs his head in shame. The social pressure is immense. In a speaking world, a stutter is a hurdle. Here, a stutter, a fumbled finger, a shaky wrist breaks the flow of reality. You notice something else. The accent of the different classes. The merchants move with sharp economic gestures. Time is money. The monks move with slow-flowing arcs. Time is eternal. The guards use jagged, abbreviated signs, military encryption. You are beginning to hear the voices of the silent, and then you see it. Across the square near the fountain, a man in a hooded cloak drops a crate of chickens. The crate hits the ground. It breaks. Crack. The sound is horrific. It's a wooden explosion. The chickens, panicked, start to squawk. Bawk, bawk. The entire square freezes. Every hand stops mid-sentence. Hundreds of eyes turn instantly to the source of the noise. The silence that follows is not the peaceful silence of the morning. It is a vacuum of shock. The man in the cloak looks terrified. He scrambles to catch the chickens, clamping his hands over their beaks. But the damage is done. The acoustic sanctity has been violated. Two guards in teal tunics materialize from the crowd. They don't run. Running is loud. They speed walk with terrifying smoothness. They grab the man. They don't shout, "You're under arrest." They simply clamp a hand over his mouth and zip-tie his wrists together. By binding his hands, they have gagged him. Can't explain. He can't beg. Has been silenced in every sense of the word. They drag him away. The chickens are collected by a grim-faced street cleaner who places them into a soundproof sack. The square remains frozen for another 10 seconds. Then, as if on a hidden signal, the hands start moving again. But the conversation has changed. You can see it. The gestures are shorter, sharper. Anxiety is rippling through the crowd like a wave. You stand there, your heart pounding a drum solo against your ribs. You look down at your own hands. You realize that in this kingdom, these aren't just tools for holding things. They are your voice, your identity, and if you're not careful, your liability. You clench them into fists and shove them deep into your pockets. You have a lot to learn, and the tuition here is steep. The sun has dipped below the jagged walls of the valley, and your stomach is making whale songs. The pity bun from the market burned off hours ago, and now you are facing the most terrifying event of the day, dinner. In the Forgotten Kingdom, eating is not a leisure activity. It is a tactical operation. You have been directed to the Hall of Sustenance, a communal dining refectory attached to the guest house. You stand at the entrance, watching the locals file in. They move with the solemnity of a funeral procession. You check your pockets, no loose change, no keys. You check your shoes still, the wool socks. Take a deep breath, try to calm the rumble in your gut, and step inside. The hall is magnificent and oppressive. The ceiling is low, covered in acoustic tiling made from pressed cork and painted with scenes of harvest. But in these paintings, the harvesters are not singing or laughing. They are working in grim, efficient silence. Long tables stretch the length of the room, draped in heavy padded tablecloths that hang all the way to the floor. The lighting is dim, provided by beeswax candles that smell of honey and emit no crackle. You are ushered to a seat by a server wearing a velvet sash. You sit on a bench that has been upholstered to prevent the squeak of wood on wood. To your left is an elderly woman who looks like she could hear a pin drop in a tornado. To your right is a man with a beard so thick it likely serves as a secondary sound muffler. You look at the table setting. It's a masterclass in noise reduction. The plates are not ceramic or metal. They're made of turned wood, polished to a satin finish, resting on felt placemats. The goblet is horn-light, organic, and non-resonant. The cutlery is the most interesting part. You have a spoon and a two-pronged fork, both carved from a dense, dark wood that looks like ebony. No knife. Knives scrape. Knives screech against plates. If you need to cut something here, it has either been pre-cut in the kitchen, it's pre-aced, or it is cooked to a consistency where it surrenders to the side of a wooden fork without a fight. Food is served. Tureens of steam are brought out by the servers, who move in perfect synchronization. They ladle out a thick, hearty stew. It smells incredible roasted root vegetables, savory broth, tender chunks of what you hope is beef but suspect might be goat. Here is a mainstream historical fact for you. In medieval Europe, communal dining was often a raucous affair, with dogs fighting under the table and minstrels playing in the gallery to drown out the sound of chewing. But in monastic orders like the Benedictines, meals were eaten in strict silence while a designated brother read scripture aloud. This kingdom has taken the silence part of the monastery and combined it with the high stakes of a bomb disposal unit. You pick up your spoon. It feels light in your hand. You look around. Everyone else has picked up their spoons in unison. It's like a cult ritual. Then the eating begins. If you have never tried to eat a bowl of soup without making a single sound, let me tell you, it is harder than it looks. You dip the spoon in. You have to be careful not to hit the side of the wooden bowl. Thump is better than clink, but silent is the goal. You lift the spoon. You cannot blow on it. Blowing is wind. Wind is noise. You have to wait for it to cool or risk burning your tongue and gasping, which would be social suicide. You take a sip. You have to disable your suck reflex. You're slurping. You have to pour the soup into your mouth. It requires a level of lip control you didn't know you possessed. The room is filled with people, perhaps 50 of them, and yet the only sound is the soft, wet noise of mastication and swallowing. It's disgusting. It's intimate. Without the ambient noise of conversation or background music, you can hear the biology of the room. You can hear the guy next to you swallowing. You can hear the woman to your left breathing through her nose as she chews. And here's a trivial fact that is currently driving you insane. The phenomenon of bone conduction means that the sound of your own chewing is amplified in your inner ear. When you crunch on something, your skull vibrates, sending the sound directly to your cochlea. To you, your chewing sounds like a cement mixer. To everyone else, hopefully, it sounds like nothing. But in this room, you are paranoid that your jaw is broadcasting your dinner to the entire table. This is why there are no crunchy foods here. No crusty bread, no crisp apples, no celery. Everything is soft. The stew is followed by a mash of turnips and carrots. It's baby food for adults. You are halfway through your stew, feeling proud of your stealth, when the tension spikes. A server approaches the table to refill water goblets. He holds a pitcher made of leather, another noise-dampening choice. Pours water into the horn goblet of the man across from you. The man reaches for the goblet before the server is finished. His hand bumps the pitcher. It's a soft collision, leather on skin, barely a thud. Yet the water splashes. It hits the table. Splat. The sound is wet and abrupt. Every spoon at the table stops mid-air. It's the freeze game from kindergarten, but with higher stakes. 50 pairs of eyes lock onto the man. He freezes, his hand hovering over his goblet, water dripping from his cuff onto the padded tablecloth. His face goes pale. He doesn't apologize. Apologizing requires words. He simply lowers his head, tucking his chin into his chest in a posture of deep shame. He holds the pose for a full 10 seconds. The table judges him, can feel the collective disapproval radiating like heat. Clumsy, loud, barbarian. Then slowly, the woman at the head of the table lifts her spoon. The spell breaks, the eating resumes. Let out a breath you didn't know you were holding, easing it out through your nose so it doesn't hiss. You realize that you are sweating. A cold, nervous sweat prickling under your russet cloak. Historians and sociologists still argue whether this forced silence at meals is designed to curb gluttony. You eat less when you're terrified, or if it's a method of social control. Breaking down the individual's will by denying them the camaraderie of the table. Sharing a meal is usually where bonds are formed, where plots are hatched, where love blossoms. Here, sharing a meal is a solitary confinement that just happens to be crowded. The main course is cleared away. Dessert is brought out. It is a custard. Of course it is. Silent, wobble-wye yellow custard. It's delicious, sweet and creamy, but you eat it with the joy of a bomb disposal technician cutting the red wire. You are scraping the last of the custard from your bulk. Fully, oh so carefully when it happens. Not to you. To the bearded man on your right, he hiccups. It's a violent, involuntary spasm of the diaphragm. Hic. It's loud. Echoes off the low, cork-lined ceiling. The man's eyes go wide. Slaps a hand over his mouth, terrified. He holds his breath. You can see his chest hitching. He is fighting his own biology. Hic. The second one is muffled by his hand. A strangled squeak. The table stops again. This time, the mood isn't judgment. It's fear. A hiccup is a chain reaction. It's hard to stop. And it is repetitive noise. 2 servers appear from the shadows. They don't look like waiters anymore. They look like bouncers. They tap the man on the shoulder. He stands up, face red, hand still clamped over his mouth. He bows to the table, apology and allows himself to be escorted out. You watch him go. He isn't being dragged to a dungeon, probably, but he is being removed from society until his diaphragm learns some manners. You finish your custard. You place your spoon gently on the felt mat. You fold your napkin. You look around the table. People are beginning to leave. There is no lingering over coffee. There is no let's split the bill. You stand up, your knees cracking softly, a sound that makes you wince. But fortunately, it's lost in the shuffle of wool robes. You walk out of the hall, your stomach full, but your nerves frayed. You step back into the corridor with the indigo tapestries. You feel exhausted. The mental energy required to simply exist here is staggering. You miss the mindless noise of your old life. You miss the sound of a TV left on in the other room. You miss the chaotic, beautiful mess of sound. But you have survived dinner. You are still a free agent in the kingdom of silence. As you head toward the library, your next destination, as you need to understand the theory behind this madness, you pass a window looking out into a courtyard. You see the bearded man. He is standing alone in the garden, drinking water from a fountain, holding his breath. He looks miserable. You feel a strange solidarity with him. You tap on the glass lightly with the pad of your finger. He looks up. You give him a thumbs up. He hesitates, then returns the gesture. A silent moment of connection between two people who are just trying not to make a scene. You turn away and head for the library. The food has settled, but the curiosity is just beginning to churn. You need to know why. Why would a civilization choose this? Why ban the sound of a laugh, a song, a hiccup? The answers, you hope, are in the books. But in a kingdom where books are read with oil-soaked pages, you have a feeling the truth might be slippery. You leave the dining hall, your stomach full of silent stew, and your mind full of questions. The corridors of the guest house are dim, the lanterns turned low to encourage the city's early bedtime. But you aren't ready for sleep. You have a pass given to you by the clerk at the deska, small rectangular slip of polished slate with an eye carved into it. It grants you access to the citadel of memory, or as we would call it, the library. You step out into the night air. It's crisp and cold. The city is asleep, or at least it's pretending to be. You suspect that behind those shuttered windows, people are living quiet lives, knitting, reading, perhaps mouthing arguments to each other in the dark. You make your way toward the center of the city, where a massive domed structure looms against the starry sky. It doesn't look like a castle. It looks like a giant stone beehive. The entrance to the Library of Thoughts is not a door. It is a series of overlapping felt curtains, hanging like vertical baffles. You push through one, then another, then a third. Each layer strips away a little more of the outside world until you emerge into the main rotunda. If you thought the dining hall was quiet, this place is the acoustic equivalent of a black hole. The room is vast, circular, and lined from floor to ceiling with shelves. But there are no ladders. Ladders squeak. Ladders rattle. Instead, the floor spirals upward, a gentle ramp that winds its way up the walls, allowing access to every shelf without a single moving part. The shelves themselves are lined with velvet. The books do not slide. They are placed. You walk up the ramp, your wool socks gripping the cork flooring. The air smells of vanilla, almond, and dry earth. Here is a trivial fact for you. That old book smell we love is actually the result of the organic materials breaking down. Lignin, the polymer in wood-based paper, degrades into vanillin, the same compound found in vanilla beans. So, in a way, a library is slowly turning into a bakery. But here the smell is intense, concentrated by centuries of sealed windows and recycled air. You see figures moving in the shadows. These are the archivists. They wear robes of dark brown, blending in with the woodwork. They don't walk, they glide. You suspect they might be wearing slippers made of cloud. They are the guardians of the kingdom's history, the keepers of the silence. You find a section labeled with a pictogram, a stylized ear with a red X through it. History of the ban. This is what you came for. You want to know how a society decides to sew its own mouth shut? You select a tome. It is heavy, bound in soft, pliable leather that makes no creak when you open it. The pages are not paper crinkles. They are vellum calfskin, but treated with a specific oil that makes them supple and silent. You turn the page. It's like turning a sheet of silk. The text is handwritten in a beautiful flowing script, the ink dark and glossy. You begin to read, translating the archaic dialect in your head. In the beginning there was the noise. The book describes a prehistoric era of chaos. It tells of a world where demons roamed the earth, creatures who possessed the power to shatter stones with their voices. These demons are illustrated in the margins. You lean in closer. They don't look like monsters. They look like politicians, bards, town criers. One illustration shows a figure standing on a box, mouth wide open, jagged lines erupting from his throat. The caption reads, "The Tyrant of Decibels." The text claims that these noise demons used sound to confuse the mind, to incite anger, to manipulate the truth. It says that the Great Shriek caused the sky to crack and the mountains to tremble. Mainstream historical records usually tell us that the Tower of Babel's story was a metaphor for the confusion of languages. But looking at this text, you realize this culture took that myth and radicalized it. They believe that speech itself is the root of all deception. If you can't speak, you can't lie. Well, that's the theory anyway. As you learned in the market, you can definitely lie with your hands. It just takes more dexterity. You turn the page to a chapter titled The Purification. It describes how the first silencer, the founder of the kingdom, discovered that truth could only be found in the quiet. He led his people into this valley, where the mountains protected them from the winds of words. It frames sound not just as annoying, but as a biological weapon. It claims that spoken words carry a virus of the soul. It's compelling propaganda. Standing here in this peaceful, vanilla-scented sanctuary, you almost start to buy into it. Imagine a world without hate speech, without shouting matches, without the drone of a televised debate. It sounds lovely. Bet. Then you remember the man with the chickens, terrified and bound. You remember the fear in the dining hall? This isn't peace. It's suppression dressed up as serenity. You continue exploring the stacks. You find a section on acoustic biology. This is where it gets weird. The book claims that the human ear is a vulnerability, a literal hole in the head through which evil can enter. There are diagrams showing the ear canal being blocked by filters of wisdom. Historians still argue whether the founders of this kingdom were part of a splinter sect of Gnostics who believed the material world, and its sounds was evil, or if they were refugees from a war-torn region where the sound of approaching armies caused collective PTSD. Looking at the terrified drawings of trumpets and drums in this book, the PTSD theory holds water. To them, a drum isn't an instrument. It's the heartbeat of war. You wander further up the spiral ramp. You are now 3 stories up, looking down at the rotunda. The archivists look like ants below. You spot a desk tucked into an alcove. It looks different from the others. It's messy. There are scraps of parchment, a pot of ink that has been left open, and a quill. Wait, a quill? Quills scratch. Quills are loud. Everyone else here uses soft-tipped brushes. You approach the desk. Shouldn't be here. This feels like a private workspace. You glance over the edge of the ramp. No one is looking up. You step into the alcove. On the desk is a journal. Small, bound in rough canvas. You open it. The handwriting is jagged, hurried. It looks like it was written in the dark. I heard it again tonight. The entry reads, "The humming. It comes from the walls." It is not silence. It is a frequency too low to hear, but I can feel it in my teeth. You get a chill. Infrasound. Sound waves below the range of human hearing, around 20 hertz or lower. It can cause feelings of awe, fear, and anxiety. It's often used in horror movie soundtracks to make you feel uneasy before the monster appears. Is that what the silence of this kingdom really is? Are they pumping low-frequency vibrations into the city to keep everyone in a state of suppressed dread? You turn the page. They say the king has no tongue, but I have seen the diagrams. The inner sanctum is not silent. It is the only place that screams. You slam the book shut. The sound of the cover hitting the pages is a soft hump, but in the library it sounds like a gavel strike. You freeze. Below you, 3 archivists stop moving. They look up. Simultaneously, their faces are shadowed by their hoods, but you can feel their gaze. They don't point. They don't shout. They simply start to glide up the ramp. You panic. You need to put the book back, but you can't leave it here. You've seen too much. You shove the small journal into your tunic. It feels hot against your chest, a burning brick of treason. You step out of the alcove and start walking down the ramp, trying to look casual. It's just a tourist, enjoying the architecture. Nothing to see here. The archivists are coming up. They're fast. They move with a fluid, terrifying grace. You realize they aren't just librarians. They are the immune system of this building, and you are a germ. You scan the area. You can't go down, you have to go up. You turn and hurry up the spiral. The ramp gets narrower the higher you go. The air gets warmer. Heat rises, even silent heat. You reach the top level. It's a restricted section. Here the books are chained. It's not with metal chains, but with braided ropes of horsehair. The titles are frightening. The Art of the Whisper. The Forbidden Dictionary of Vowels. The Song of the End. There is a small door at the very top of the spiral. It's locked. You look back. The archivists are 2 levels down, closing the gap. They are communicating with each other, using subtle hand signals, a flick of the wrist, a touch of the hood. They are coordinating a pincer movement. You press your ear against the door. You hear nothing, of course. You try the handle. Locked. You pull out your lock-picking tools wrapped in velvet naturally. You insert a tension wrench. You have to do this by feel. Usually you listen for the click of the tumblers. Here, you can't hear the click. The mechanisms are too well oiled, and the door itself is soundproofed. You close your eyes. You focus your entire being into your fingertips. You feel the tiny vibration of a pin setting. 1, 2, 3. The archivists are 1 level down. You can smell them now, old paper and dust. 4. The lock turns. You slip through the door and close it softly behind you just as the first brown robe rounds the curve. You were in a service stairwell. It's dark, dusty, and narrow. But you are safe for the moment. You lean against the door, your heart hammering a frantic rhythm against your ribs. You pull the journal out of your tunic. The inner sanctum is not silent. It is the only place that screams. What does that mean? You look up the stairwell. It goes higher, toward the roof, or perhaps toward the high towers of the palace itself. You have a choice. You can go back down and try to sneak out, or you can climb. But you know you're not going down. You didn't come this far to read the brochure. You came for the truth. You start to climb. The stairs here are stone, unpadded. You have to place your feet with agonizing slowness. Toe, heel, weight, transfer. It's a meditative torture. As you climb, you think about the mainstream history of libraries. The Library of Alexandria was said to hold the knowledge of the world, and its burning set humanity back centuries. But here, the library is a cage. It holds knowledge hostage. It curates reality by deleting the words that describe it. You reach a landing. There is a window, a small slit in the stone. You look out. You are high above the city. The moon is full, casting a silver light over the silent rooftops. You can see the palace from here. It sits on a rocky promontory, separated from the rest of the city by a deep chasm. A single bridge connects it. And there, on the bridge, you see movement, a procession, figures in red robes carrying. Torches? No. They are carrying instruments. Long brass trumpets. But they aren't playing them. They're carrying them like dead bodies wrapped in cloth. You watch as they cross the bridge and disappear into the palace gates. The golden cage awaits. That's where the king is. That's where the answers are. You check your map. The outline of the city is etched into your mind. To get to the palace, you need to cross the city, avoid the patrols, and find a way onto that bridge, or find another way in. You look at the journal again. There is a sketch on the back page. It looks like a sewer grate, tunnel, the throat of the city. The caption reads, "Great. You just escaped a library of silence to crawl into a sewer of filth." But if that's the only road to the king who screams, you're going to take it. You descend the service stairs, exiting into a back alley behind the library. You are covered in dust, clutching a stolen diary, and you are officially a criminal. The silence of the night feels different now. It's not peaceful, it's expectant. It's the silence of a held breath before the scream. You are now knee-deep in what the journal poetically called the throat of the city, but which you, in your modern vernacular, would call a sewer. Thankfully, this is a civilization obsessed with purity and filtration, so the sludge you're wading through isn't as biological as you feared. It's mostly gray water runoff from the baths and the silent fountains flowing through a tunnel of polished brick. It smells of damp stone and old soap, like a locker room that hasn't been renovated since the Crusades. You are following the map sketched in the back of the stolen journal. According to the jagged ink lines, this aqueduct flows directly under the palace walls and feeds into the heating systems of the inner sanctum. It's a bold route. Most intruders try to go over the walls. You are going under, swimming upstream like a particularly stealthy salmon. The acoustics down here are treacherous. The tunnel is a perfect cylinder, which means it acts like a whispering gallery. A splash here could probably be heard by a toilet scrubber 3 miles away. You have to move with the flow of the water, lifting your legs high and placing them down with the precision of a heron stalking a fish. It's a slow, agonizing workout for your hip flexors. After an hour of this damp purgatory, you see a grate above you. Light filters down warm, golden light. You reach up. The grate is not locked. It's held in place by its own weight. You push. It slides aside with a heavy, lubricated glide. You pull yourself up, dripping and shivering, into a room that smells of lavender and hot linen. You are in the royal laundry. Rows of massive copper cauldrons are bubbling softly. Servants in white robes are stirring sheets with long wooden paddles. They don't look up. They are in a trance of labor. The steam in the room is thick, acting as a visual and acoustic dampener. You quickly strip off your sodden russet cloak and muddy boots. You spot a pile of fresh uniforms on a table, tunics of deep crimson velvet, the livery of the inner circle. You change. The velvet is heavy, lined with silk. Feels like wearing a hug. You pull on a pair of soft-soled slippers. You check your reflection in the side of a copper pot. You look like a courtier. Slightly damp, terrified courtier, but a courtier nonetheless. You step out of the laundry and into the corridors of the palace. If the city was quiet, the palace is a vacuum. The floors here are marble, but they are covered in runners of fur-thick white fur that looks like it came from polar bears, or perhaps genetically modified sound-dampening sheep. You follow a group of courtiers who are walking in a single-file line. They all have their hands tucked into their opposite sleeves, heads bowed. You join the back of the line. You have no idea where you are going. But in a place like this, if you look like you belong, no one questions you. Conformity is the best camouflage. The line moves through a set of massive double doors. You hold your breath. You have entered the golden cage. The throne room is not just a room. It is an architectural flex of the highest order.
Oh.
It is a perfect sphere, a dome that curves under your feet as well as over your head. A suspended walkway of glass cuts through the middle, leading to a central platform. The walls are covered in gold leaf, not paint actual gold, hammered so thin it responds to the air currents in the room. Here is a mainstream historical fact for you. Louis XIV of France, the Sun King, used his physical presence as a weapon. His levee, the ceremony of him waking up and getting dressed, was attended by the highest nobles in the land. To hand the king his shirt was a political victory worth killing for. Power was proximity. Here the dynamic is similar, but the medium is different. In Versailles, the king was the center of noise and activity. Here, the king is the center of the void. You walk along the glass bridge. Below you, 20 feet down, is a garden of white sand, raked into perfect concentric circles. Above you, the golden dome reflects the light of 1,000 smokeless candles. And there, in the center of the platform, sits the monarch. He or she, it's hard to tell under the layers of brocade, is sitting on a throne made of what looks like suspended light. It's actually clear crystal lit from below. The monarch is wearing robes so heavy and stiff with embroidery that they probably stand up on their own. Tall conical headdress covers the face, leaving only the eyes visible through a veil of golden mesh. The figure is absolutely motionless. You and the other courtiers file onto the platform. You form a semicircle facing the throne. You bow. You hold the bow. Your hamstrings scream, but you don't move. You count to 10. You rise. You steal a glance at the monarch. The eyes behind the veil are open, staring straight ahead. They don't blink. Here's a trivial fact for you. The human eye must blink approximately 15 to 20 times a minute to stay lubricated. However, with intense training and perhaps some dubious herbal eye drops, that rate can be suppressed. There are monks in the Himalayas who can stare for hours without blinking. But this feels different. This feels mechanical. The silence in the room is heavy, buzzing with potential energy. It's the silence of a held breath. The court is waiting. For what? A sign? A decree? You notice a scribe sitting at the foot of the throne. He has a slate and a stylus. He is watching the monarch's hands. The monarch's hands are resting on the knees of the robe. They're gloved in white silk. Suddenly, the index finger of the monarch's right hand lifts. Just the finger. About an inch, then it drops. The scribe frantically writes something down. A ripple of movement goes through the courtiers. Collective silent gasp. What did that mean? Execute the prisoner? Raise taxes? My nose itches. You have no idea. The weight of that tiny movement is palpable. It's absurd. It's terrifying. It's a masterclass in minimalism. Historians and political scientists still argue whether this system of sign of the monarch is a genuine language known only to the elite, or if it's a colossal theatrical performance where the scribes interpret the random twitches of a senile ruler to suit their own political agendas. It's the Wizard of Oz theory: is there a man behind the curtain, or is the curtain the whole point? You watch the monarch closely. You're looking for the rise and fall of the chest. The robes are thick, stiff gold, wire, and velvet. You can't see breathing. You can't see a pulse. A horrific thought crosses your mind. Is the king dead? Has he been dead for years? Is this a Weekend at Bernie's situation, but with more gold leaf and less slapstick comedy? Or perhaps it's an automaton. You saw the clockwork musicians in the market. Is the ruler of this kingdom a complex collection of gears and springs wound up every morning by the high priest? The court stands there for what feels like an hour. Nothing happens. The monarch stares. The scribe waits. The courtiers sweat. Your nose begins to itch. It's a tiny tickle at first, right on the tip. Then it spreads. It's the most demanding sensation in the world. You want to scratch it? You need to scratch it. But you are 10 feet from the crystal throne. If you raise your hand, you will break the symmetry of the court. You will create motion where there is stillness. You grit your teeth. You try to wiggle your nose like a rabbit, hoping the friction of your own skin will solve the problem. It doesn't. You look at the courtier next to you. He is staring at the floor, beads of sweat dripping from his forehead onto the fur rug. He is terrified. Everyone is terrified. This isn't respect. It's hostage negotiation. Then the monarch moves again. The head turns, slowly, mechanically. The veiled face sweeps across the room. The golden mesh glitters. The gaze stops. It stops on you. Your blood turns to slush. The itch on your nose vanishes, replaced by pure adrenaline. The monarch is looking at you. Yes. Did you breathe too loud? Is your stolen velvet tunic buttoned wrong? Can he smell the sewer on your skin beneath the lavender laundry soap? The eyes behind the mesh bore into you. You feel stripped naked. For a moment you think you see something in those eyes. Not anger. Not authority. Panic. A desperate pleading panic. Then the head turns back to center. The moment is over. A bell rings somewhere deep in the palace, a low, resonant tone that vibrates the floorboards but makes no audible sound in the air. It's a bone conduction bell. The audience is over. The courtiers bow again. You bow with them, your knees shaking so hard you almost tip over. You turn and file out, walking backward until you reach the glass bridge. You are not allowed to turn your back on the king until you are out of the circle of influence. As you leave the golden cage, your mind is racing. Look. It wasn't the look of a tyrant. It was the look of a prisoner. The golden cage. The name isn't a metaphor for the luxury of the court. It's literal. The monarch is trapped in that heavy robe, trapped in that silence, trapped on that crystal chair. Who is really in charge here? The scribe? The guards? The silence itself? You follow the procession back into the main corridor. You need to break away. You can't go back to the laundry. They'll count the uniforms. You need to find a place to hide and think. You spot an alcove with a spiral staircase going down. Not to the sewers this time, but to the gardens. You slip out of the line. No one notices. Or if they do, they don't say anything. That's the beauty of this place. Snitches get stitches implies verbal reporting. Here, indifference is the safest policy. You descend the stairs, your velvet slippers silent on the stone. You are thinking about the monarch's finger. The twitch. Here is a scientific fact to chew on. The concept of idiomotor phenomenon describes when people make small, unconscious movements based on their thoughts. Ouija boards work this way. Dowsing rods work this way. Is the king ruling the country? Or is the country ruling the king's subconscious twitches? You reach the bottom of the stairs. You are in a transitional antechamber. There is a mural on the wall. It depicts the coronation of the first king. He is holding a finger to his lips. But there is something odd about the painting. The king is holding a mask. He isn't the one with the finger to his lips. A figure behind him is making the gesture. A figure in a gray hooded robe, an archivist. The pieces are starting to click together. The library, the silence, the puppet king. This isn't a monarchy. It's a bureaucracy of librarians. It's a bibliocracy where the text is sacred and the voice is heresy. And you have a journal in your pocket that says the inner sanctum screams. You didn't hear a scream in the throne room. It was dead silent. Unless the scream isn't a sound. Unless the scream is a metaphor for something else. Visual scream, a color, a symbol. You remember the red robes of the procession you saw from the library window? The trumpets wrapped in cloth? The scream might be an object, a weapon, or an instrument that has been forbidden for centuries. And it's down here somewhere in the belly of the palace. You step out into the gardens of the muted. The air is sweet and still. You have escaped the golden cage, but you are still inside the zoo. And now you know that the lion in the center isn't the one holding the keys. You step out of the heavy, silent atmosphere of the palace and into the open air of the royal gardens. If the throne room was a cage of gold, this is a prison of green. It is breathtakingly beautiful, a masterpiece of horticultural engineering. But like everything else in this kingdom, it feels wrong. It feels neutered. The first thing you notice is the lack of birdsong. You look up at the trees and enchant oaks and willows that have been pruned into unnaturally smooth shapes. There are no nests. The branches are bare of life. You realize with a shudder that they must employ falcons, or perhaps even archers, to keep the sky clear. A chirp here is a crime. You walk down a gravel path. Wait, no, it's not gravel. Gravel crunches. And this is crushed cork, dyed gray to look like stone. It yields softly under your feet. The path winds through beds of flowers that are vibrant, and lush roses the color of blood, lilies as white as bone. But they are all low-growing varieties. Tall flowers sway in the wind. Swaying creates rustling. Everything here is bred to hug the ground, to minimize the surface area exposed to the breeze. You reach a fountain. It is the centerpiece of the garden. In a normal world, a fountain is a source of white noise, a pleasant babble of splashing water. Here, the fountain is a study in fluid dynamics designed to eliminate the splash. The water flows over a series of stepped, polished stones, clinging to the surface due to surface tension, and slides silently into a deep pool filled with oil. The oil floats on top of the water, suppressing any ripples, swallowing any droplets that might fall. It's mesmerizing and deeply unsettling. Looks like the fountain is bleeding clear syrup. You sit on a bench carved from a single block of soapstone. You need to gather your thoughts. You have the journal. You have the knowledge of the Puppet King. You have a stolen velvet uniform. But you are stuck in the most heavily guarded garden in the world. As you sit, you notice a movement in the grass. A peacock walks by. Peacocks are notoriously loud birds. Their call sounds like a woman screaming for help. Why would they have peacocks here? You watch the bird. It opens its beak. It throws its head back. Nothing comes out. Silence. You stare in horror. The bird has been devoiced. Its vocal cords have been severed. It struts around, fanning its magnificent tail, completely unaware that its scream is silent. It is a living decoration, stripped of its nature to fit the aesthetic of the void. This is the cruelty of the silence. It's not just a social rule. It's a biological intervention. It's eugenics applied to sound. You see a gardener working nearby is wearing a wide-brimmed straw hat and padded knee guards. He is pruning a hedge with shears that have leather bumpers on the handles to prevent the snip-snip sound. He cuts a branch, catches it before it hits the ground. He places it gently into a burlap sack. It is a slow, meditative dance of destruction. You decide to approach him. You need a way out of the garden. The walls are high and the gates are guarded, but gardeners always know the back ways. They know the compost chutes, the drainage ditches. You walk over, keeping your hands visible, trying to look like a lost courtier taking a stroll. The gardener looks up. His face is weathered, his eyes kind but guarded. He sees your velvet tunic. He bows low. You wave a hand? No need for that. You point to the wall. You make a gesture of walking. Is there a gate? Shakes his head. Closed. You point to the ground. Is there a tunnel? He freezes. He looks at you sharply. He reaches into his pocket. Your heart jumps. Is he reaching for a whistle? A weapon? He pulls out a handful of seeds. He holds them out to you. They are sunflower seeds. You take one. He points to a small birdhouse hidden deep in the hedge. It's padded with wool. A tiny bird hops out. Sparrow. It looks at the seeds. It hops onto the gardener's hand. It eats. It opens its beak to chirp, and the gardener gently places a finger on its beak. The bird seems to understand. It fluffs its feathers and flies back into the padded house. The gardener smiles at you. It's a conspiratorial smile. He is harboring a fugitive. A noisy, illegal sparrow. He points to a potting shed in the corner of the garden. He makes a gesture of lifting a heavy object. Then he points down a trapdoor. You nod your thanks. You reach into your pocket and pull out a coin, a gold piece from the outside world. You press it into his hand. He looks at it, eyes wide. Gold makes a loud sound when dropped, but it buys a lot of silence. You head for the potting shed. Inside, it smells of earth and fertilizer. You find the trapdoor under a stack of empty sacks. It's heavy, made of iron-bound oak. You lift it. The hinges are well greased. You look down. A ladder descends into darkness. This is it. The exit from the palace grounds. But before you can descend, you hear a sound outside. Footsteps. Not the soft shuffle of the locals. These are hard, deliberate steps. Boots on stone. Someone is breaking the rules. You peek through a crack in the shed wall. 3 guards in black armor are marching across the garden. They are not the teal-clad city watch. These are the king's personal guard, the silencers. They wear masks that cover the lower half of their faces. They are heading straight for the gardener. You watch paralyzed. They stop in front of the old man. One of them holds up a device. It looks like a brass trumpet, but flattened. A listening horn. He points it at the hedge. At the birdhouse, the sparrow chooses that exact moment to chirp. It's a tiny sound. Peep. But to the listening horn, it must sound like a siren. The guard nods. The gardener drops to his knees. He pleads with his hands. Mercy, it is just a bird. A small life. The guard draws a sword. It is a short, brutal blade. He steps forward. He doesn't attack the gardener. He thrusts the sword into the hedge. There is a rustle. Then silence. He pulls the blade out. He wipes it on the grass.
Then he turns to the gardener.
He points to the gate. Go! The gardener is being arrested for harboring a noise. You want to scream? Want to burst out of the shed and fight them? But you have no weapon. You are one person against a regime that executes pets. If you reveal yourself now, you die, and the truth dies with you. You force yourself to look away. You force yourself to climb down the ladder into the dark. This is the price of the forgotten kingdom. Beauty is bought with blood. Peace is enforced by terror. You descend into the tunnel. It is narrow, smelling of roots and damp earth. You turn on a small penlight you brought with you. The beam cuts through the gloom. You're walking under the roots of the silent trees. You can see them dangling from the ceiling like skeletal fingers. You wonder if the trees can hear. Scientists say plants respond to sound. Roots grow toward the sound of water. In a world of silence, are the plants confused? Are they starving for vibration? You walk for what feels like miles. The tunnel eventually opens up into a larger cavern. You are back in the city's underbelly, but this part looks different. It's older. The brickwork is crumbling. You find a rusty ladder leading up. You climb it and push open a manhole cover. You emerge into an alleyway. It is night again. You have lost track of time. You are in the residential district. The houses here are tall and narrow, leaning over the street like gossiping old women who have been struck dumb. You need to blend in again. You strip off the velvet tunicates to conspicuous herein, bundle it into a ball, shoving it into a dark corner. You are back in your shirt and trousers, shivering in the cold. You need to get back to the guest house. You need to regroup. But as you walk down the street, you notice something. The windows of the houses are not dark. They are flickering with blue light. Not firelight, blue light. You creep closer to a window. You peer through a gap in the shutters. Inside, a family is sitting in a circle. In the center is a glass jar. Inside the jar is a collection of fireflies. But they aren't looking at the fireflies. They are looking at the shadows the fireflies cast on the wall. The shadows are moving. They look like mouths. Talking mouths. It's a shadow play. Someone is using their hands to create the silhouette of a face, and they are animating the mouth to mimic speech. The family is watching, mesmerized. They are simulating conversation. They're starving for it. They're watching a shadow puppet talk because they cannot talk themselves. It's heartbreaking. It's a silent cinema of the domestic. You back away from the window. You feel like a voyeur. You turn a corner and run right into a patrol. 2 guards. Teal tunics, halberds. You didn't hear them? They were standing in the shadows, perfectly still. They see you. They see your disheveled clothes. They see the mud on your boots. They block your path. One of them raises a hand. Stop. He points to your mouth. Open. He wants to check your tongue. To see if you are a talker. To see if your tongue is loose. If your throat is red from use. You panic. You can't let them inspect you. You'll gag. You'll cough. You'll reveal yourself. You look around alleyway. Dead end. You have one weapon. The journal. No, not to read. To throw. You reach into your pocket. You grab the book. You hurl it at a pile of empty crates stacked against the wall. Crash. The sound is explosive in the narrow alley. Wood splinters.
Yes.
The crates tumble. The guards spin around, startled by the noise. It's a reflex. Even after years of training, a sudden crash triggers the fight-or-flight response. In that split second of distraction, you bolt. You sprint past them, your boots slamming on the cobblestones. C-L-O-M-P, clomp. Clomp. You are making noise. You are breaking the law, and it feels fantastic. You hear them chasing you, but they are hesitant. They are trying to run quietly. You are running for your life. Noise is speed. Silence is slow. You round a corner, slide on the straw mats, and scramble up a drain pipe onto a low roof. You lie flat on the tiles, panting, your heart hammering like a trapped bird. Below you, the guards stop. They look around. They gesture to each other. Gone. They move on. You lie there, looking up at the silent stars. You have escaped again, but you have lost the journal. The evidence is gone, but you have the memory. You have the image of the sparrow. You have the image of the king's twitching finger. You have a new realization. The people here aren't happy. They are terrified. They are bored. They are lonely. And the cracks are showing. The shadow puppets. The secret birdhouses. The gardener's rebellion. This kingdom isn't stable. It's a pressure cooker with the valve welded shut. And you? You might just be the steam that blows the lid off. You wake up with the sunrise, your body stiff and aching from sleeping on a slanted roof composed of slate tiles. The morning mist is thick, clinging to the city like a wet wool blanket. Dampening sound even further, you stretch carefully, wincing as your spine cracks. A series of internal pops that sound terrifyingly loud in your own head, but hopefully didn't carry across the alley. You slide down the drain pipe, landing in a crouch on the cobblestones. You need to blend in fast. You brush the roof grit off your clothes and step into the main thoroughfare. The flow of the crowd is different this morning. Usually the movement is chaotic but fluid, like a school of fish. Today, it is directional. Everyone is heading toward the same place, the square of retribution. You join the stream of people. There is a grim anticipation in the air. In our world, people rubberneck at car accidents or tune in to televised court cases for the drama. Here, justice is the only spectator sport allowed. And today, the roster is full. You arrive at the square. It is a vast, open space paved with dark basalt stones. In the center stands a raised platform draped in black velvet. On the platform sits a habacked chair, and in that chair sits the magistrate of decibels. He is a terrifying figure. He wears a robe of vantablackor, the medieval equivalent, likely dyed with charcoal and soot, that seems to absorb the light around him. On his head, he wears a peculiar hat with large, exaggerated ear flaps that extend outward like the wings of a bat. He holds a rod of iron in one hand and a white feather in the other. The symbols are clear. The weight of the law and the lightness of silence. You squeeze into a spot near the back of the crowd. The silence here is heavy, oppressive. Thousands of people are standing shoulder to shoulder, and you can't hear a single cough. It's a biological miracle born of fear. First prisoner is brought out. He is a young man, barely 20. He is trembling. 2 guards grip his arms. He is wearing a rough burlap sack, the uniform of the accused. A sign hangs around his neck. It depicts a nose with jagged lines radiating from it. The crime, snoring. A witness steps forward. It's an older woman, likely his neighbor or landlady. She looks vindicated but nervous. She stands before the magistrate and begins to sign. Her gestures are sharp, accusatory. She mimics sleeping. She mimics a vibration. She points to her own ears and grimaces in pain. She spreads her hands wide to indicate the volume. Big noise. All night. The magistrate watches impassively. He turns to the young man, raises a single eyebrow. The young man frantically signs back. I am sick. My nose was blocked. I did not mean it. It's a pitiful defense. In this kingdom, intent doesn't matter. Only the acoustic outcome matters. Your body is a machine, and if it malfunctions loudly, you are liable. The magistrate lifts the iron rod. The verdict is guilty. The punishment is not prison. Prison costs money. The punishment is a device. The guards bring out a metal cage that fits over the head. It has a peculiar attachment, a metal ball that sits inside the mouth, pressing down on the tongue. Here is a mainstream historical fact for you. In 16th and 17th century Britain, a device called the scold's bridle or branks was used to punish women considered to be nags or gossips. It was an iron muzzle with a curb plate that went into the mouth, sometimes with spikes, to physically prevent speech. It was a tool of misogyny and control. Here the gender aspect is gone, but the control is absolute. They have industrialized the scold's bridle. They clamped the cage onto the young man's head. He gags silently, because the ball suppresses the sound. The crowd watches with a mix of horror and satisfaction. Logic is brutal. If you cannot control your airway while you sleep, the state will control it for you. He is led away, weeping silent tears. The next case is more complex. A woman is dragged onto the stage. She looks defiant. The sign around her neck shows a pair of hands dropping a pot. Clumsiness. But this isn't just about dropping a pot. The witness, a man in a merchant's robe, signs that she dropped it on purpose. That she used the noise to startle a stray dog away from her stall. Weaponized noise. The magistrate leans forward. This is a serious charge. To make noise accidentally is a failure of discipline. To make noise intentionally is an act of terrorism. The woman signs rapidly. The dog was stealing. I had no rock. I used the sound. She is arguing that the ends justify the means. That a loud noise can be a tool for good. It is a dangerous philosophical argument to make in a court of silence. The magistrate consults a book on his podium, flips the vellum pages with a pair of wooden tweezers. He stops. He points to a passage. He signs, "The law is the silence. The silence is the law. There is no exception." He picks up the white feather. He holds it up. He drops it. It drifts to the floor, lands without a sound. This is the ideal, he signs, or the stone. The guards bring out the stocks. But these aren't normal stocks. They are lined with acoustic foam. The woman is locked in. A hood is placed over her head. This is the hood of reflection. It is designed to be completely soundproof. Inside that hood, she can scream, cry, or beg, but no one will hear her. She is effectively erased from the sensory world while still standing in the town square. You feel a wave of nausea. It's the sterility of it that gets you. There is no shouting, no gavel banging. It's a bureaucratic dismantling of a human being. Then, the main event. A man is brought out in chains. He is older, with wild gray hair. He looks like a professor or a scientist. The sign around his neck doesn't show a nose or a pot. It shows a mouth with a speech bubble. Inside the bubble, a question mark. Speaking. The crowd leans in. This is the ultimate taboo. Actual words. The witness is a child. Little girl, maybe 7 years old. She looks terrified. She stands before the magistrate. She points at the man. She touches her ear. She nods. The magistrate signs to the man. What did you say? The man stands tall. He looks out at the crowd. He looks directly at you. And then he opens his mouth. He doesn't sign. He speaks. The king is deaf. The words are raspy, unused to the air, but they carry. In the dead silence of the square, they sound like thunder. The king is deaf, shouts again, louder this time. The reaction is instantaneous and violent. The crowd recoils, as if he has just detonated a bomb. People cover their ears. Some drop to their knees. The guards rush him. They don't just grab him, they tackle him. They jam a thick gag into his mouth within seconds. But the words are out. The king is deaf. You stare at the man as he is subdued. The thought hits you like a physical blow. Of course, it explains everything. The intricate sign language, the visual music, the ban on sound. If the king is deaf-R, if the original founder was deaf-Den, the entire society was restructured to accommodate that reality. It wasn't about suppressing evil demons. It was about leveling the playing field. It was about creating a world where the king was not disabled, but where everyone else was handicapped to match him. It's the social model of disability taken to a totalitarian extreme. Instead of building ramps for wheelchairs, they broke everyone's legs. Historians still argue about the great silence of the 6th century in this region. Some say it was a vow of penance, but this man's shout suggests it was a vanity project. A ruler who couldn't hear the birds decided that no one else should hear them either. If he couldn't have the world of sound, he would destroy it. The magistrate is furious. His face is purple. Slams the iron rod down on the velvet table. Thump. He signs a single command: the dungeon. The crowd disperses quickly, heads down. They are shaken. They've heard heresy. They have heard a voice. And worse, they have heard a truth that shatters their mythology. You stand there, frozen. Phrase echoes in your mind. The king is deaf. If the king is deaf, then the silence isn't a holy law. It's an insecurity. It's a massive, kingdom-wide coping mechanism. And here is a trivial, biological fact for you. The stapedius reflex is a tiny muscle in your middle ear that contracts when you hear a loud noise. It's dampening the vibration to protect your hearing. It's an involuntary flinch. When the man shouted, you saw the magistrate flinch. You saw his eyes widen. If the magistrate flinched, he can hear. So the elite can hear. The guards can hear. Only the king is deaf. The entire population is suffering to protect the ego of one man, or a lineage of men. You need to know more. The man was taken to the dungeon. The sign on the magistrate's podium indicated the location, the deep quiet. You have to go there. You have to find out what else that man knows. He seemed to be a scholar. Maybe he wrote the journal you found. Maybe he knows the way out. You wait for the square to clear. The guards are dragging the man toward a heavy iron door set into the base of the clock tower. You follow at a safe distance. You stick to the shadows. The Dungeon of Echoes awaits. The name itself is a torture. In a silent world, an echo is madness. As you walk, you notice a shop window. It displays hearing aids. But they aren't amplifiers. They are plugs. Beautifully carved ivory earplugs, velvet-lined earmuffs, wax stoppers. Protect your peace, the sign says. It's a lie. It's all a lie. They aren't protecting peace. They are enforcing isolation. You reach the door to the dungeon. It's locked, obviously. But you notice something during the trial. The guards were rattled by the shouting. They were sloppy. One of them didn't fully engage the latch on the transport cage. Maybe they were sloppy here too. You approach the door. You check the mechanism. It's a tumbler lock. But the keyhole is huge, designed for a large iron key. You don't have the key, but you have something else. You have the sound of the lock. You put your ear to the door. You tap it gently. You listen to the reverberation. Solid wood. Iron bars behind it, but the hinges. You look at the hinges. They are external, a classic design flaw. They are coated in heavy grease to prevent squeaking, which also means they are slippery. You pull out a small knife-eared dinner knife from the outside world that you hid in your boot. You begin to work the pin out of the bottom hinge. It takes time. You have to be silent, tap, wiggle, slide. If the pin falls, it will clang. You take off your wool sock and hold it under the hinge to catch the pin. Plop. Soft. Perfect. You do the same for the top hinge. You pull the heavy door open from the hinge side. It swings awkwardly, but quietly thanks to the excessive grease. You slip inside. The air changes immediately. It's cold, damp, and smells of mold and ozone. And for the first time since you entered the valley, you hear something. It's a low, constant hum, like a generator, or a choir of monks humming a single dissonant note. You're in the belly of the beast, and it isn't silent down here. It's loud. You pull the heavy dungeon door closed behind you, wedging the hinge pins back in loosely, just in case you need a quick exit. The air inside the Dungeon of Echoes is stagnant and heavy, tasting of copper and despair. It's the sound that hits you first. The hum you heard from the entrance is louder here. It's a deep, vibrating thrum that seems to emanate from the walls themselves. It sounds like the engine room of a massive ship, or perhaps the breathing of a sleeping giant. It's unsettling because it contradicts everything you've learned about this kingdom. Above, silence is God. Below, it seems noise is the devil they keep in a cage. You descend a spiral stone staircase. Steps are slick with condensation. There is no padding here. It's no velvet, no cork, just cold, hard stone. Your footsteps, even in socks, make a faint slap-slap sound. You stop and listen. The echo takes 3 seconds to die. Slap, slap. It's terrifying. After days of acoustic deadness, the echo feels like a physical presence, like a ghost following you down the stairs. You reach the bottom. You're in a long corridor lined with cells. The lighting is harsh torches that sputter and pop, casting long dancing shadows. The guards are here, but they look different. They wear earmuffs. Heavy leather-padded cups strapped over their ears. They aren't protecting themselves from the cold. They are protecting themselves from the prisoners. 'Cause the prisoners are screaming. Not all of them. You pass a cell. A man is huddled in the corner. He's rocking back and forth, moaning. "Let me out. Let me out." His voice is hoarse, broken. But in this echo chamber, it amplifies. "Let me out. Out. Out." The design of the dungeon becomes clear. The walls are curved. The ceiling is vaulted. It is a parabolic reflector. It is designed to take the smallest whimper and turn it into a roar. It is the opposite of the city above. Above, they steal your voice. Below, they force you to listen to it until it drives you mad. It's psychological torture. For a people raised to fear noise, being locked in an echo chamber is like being locked in a room full of spiders. You creep along the wall, staying in the shadows. The guards are pacing, but their earmuffs make them deaf to your approach. You just have to stay out of their line of sight. You are looking for the old scholar, the man who shouted. You find him in a cell at the far end of the corridor. It's the high security wing. The door is solid iron with a small barred window. You peer in. He is sitting on a stone bench. He looks calm, surprisingly calm for a man in hell. He is tapping his finger on his knee. Tap, 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 tap. He is making a rhythm, a beat. He sees you at the window. He doesn't look surprised. He stands up and walks to the door, points to his ears. Then he points to the wall. He mouths the words, "It's fake." "What?" He points to the wall again. He taps the stone. Thump. It sounds hollow. He signs, "The hum." It's not the prisoners. It's machines. He explains, using a mix of frantic signs and mouthed words, that the torture of the dungeon is manufactured. The screams of the prisoners are real, yes, but the echo, the amplification, the maddening hum, it's all artificial. There are pipes in the walls. They pump sound into the cells. Why? To verify the horror is to keep the guards terrified of the chaos of noise. If the dungeon is loud and scary, then the silence above feels like safety. It's a haunted house built by the government to keep the kids in line. He points to the lock. "Open." You shake your head. "I can't." "No key." Points to the guard at the end of the hall, the one with the keys on his belt.
While the keys are jingling, why keys jingling?
In the city, keys are wood.
Here they are metal.
Because down here, the noise doesn't matter. In fact, the noise is the point. The jingle of the keys is a constant reminder of authority. You take a breath. You have to steal the keys from a deafened guard in an echo chamber. Easy. You slip off your shoes entirely. You are barefoot on the cold stone. You creep up behind the guard. He's leaning against the wall, bored, reading a pamphlet. You are 5 feet away. 4 or 3. You can smell the stale tobacco smoke on him.
Ow. You reach out.
The keys are hanging from a leather loop. You grab the keys, you lift them. Clink. It's a tiny sound. But in the echo chamber, clink, clink. The guard spins around. He sees you, but he has earmuffs on. He felt the vibration. Maybe he saw the movement in his peripheral vision. He reaches for his sword. You don't have a weapon. You panic. You grab the keys tight to stop them from jingling again. You kick him hard. In the shin, he opens his mouth to yell. But he has earmuffs on. He can't hear himself.
Ow.
It creates a momentary confusion. He shouts. But the feedback loop is broken. You use that second. You turn and run. You sprint back down the corridor. And the keys are jangling like a sleigh ride now. Jingle, jangle, jingle. It's the loudest sound you've ever made. It feels rebellious. It feels like rock and roll. The other guards look up. They see you running. They start to chase. But they are heavy. They are wearing armor. You are in your socks, well, barefoot now, and adrenaline is fueling your muscles. You reach the scholar's cell. You fumble with the keys. There are 10 of them. Try the big one. No. Try the rusty one. No. The guards are getting closer. You can hear their boots. Thud, thud, thud. The echo is disorienting. It sounds like they are everywhere. Try the square one. Click. The lock turns. You throw the door open. The scholar rushes out. He grabs your arm. He doesn't run toward the exit. He runs deeper into the dungeon. This way. Signs. You follow him. You run past the cells, past the screaming prisoners. He stops at a blank wall. He feels around the stones. He finds a loose one. He pushes it. A secret door swings open. It leads to a maintenance shaft. He pulls you inside and pushes the door shut. The sounds of the dungeon, the shouting guards, the jingling keys, the artificial hum are instantly cut off. Silence returns. You are in a narrow tunnel filled with pipes, brass pipes, copper pipes. The scholar leans against the wall, panting. He signs. The organ. You look at the pipes. They aren't plumbing. They are organ pipes. Which ones? This is the source of the hum. The entire dungeon is built inside a massive subterranean pipe organ. Air is pumped through these pipes to create the sound of hell. He looks at you. His eyes are bright with the thrill of discovery. The king loves music. He signs. But he can only feel it. These pipes. They vibrate the floor of the throne room. The hum isn't for us. It's for him. It's his lullaby. The realization hits you. The king isn't just deaf. He is a basehead. The entire city's infrastructure, the silence above, the noise below, it's all designed to create a pure, tactile, musical experience for one man. He sits on his crystal throne, feeling the vibrations of the dungeon organ through his feet, while his people live in terror of the very sound that brings him pleasure. It's not just a dictatorship. It's a dedicated home theater system. The scholar gestures up the maintenance ladder. We go up, he signs, to the bellows. If we stop the air, we stop the hum. If the hum stops, the king wakes up. You look up the dark shaft. It's a long climb, but you have the keys. And you have the truth. The demons aren't real. The silence isn't holy. It's just acoustic engineering gone wrong. You start to climb. You are climbing inside the lungs of the beast. The maintenance shaft is hot, smelling of grease and heated brass. The scholar is above you, moving with surprising agility for an old man who just spent a night in the echo chamber. The ladder vibrates against your palms, a constant rhythmic shudder caused by the massive bellows pumping air into the organ pipes below. It feels like climbing the spine of a purring cat the size of a cathedral. You emerge onto a catwalk high above the city, or rather high within the city structure. You are in the clock tower war, what passes for one. There is no bell here. Instead, there is a massive rotating drum with pegs, like a giant music box mechanism. But the pegs don't strike chimes. They trip levers that release steam, or open shutters, or shift the flow of water in the aqueducts. It is the central nervous system of the kingdom's timing. The scholar stops and points to a hatch in the ceiling. You push it open and scramble out onto the roof. The night air hits you like a slap. It is freezing. You're standing on the slate tiles of the highest spire in the city, the Sleepless Spires. Below you, the kingdom is a patchwork of shadows and silver moonlight. It is breathtakingly quiet. The artificial hum of the dungeon doesn't reach up here. Here the silence feels natural, born of the wind and the stars. You sit for a moment to catch your breath. The scholar sits beside you, pulls his thin, gray robe tighter around himself. He looks out over the sleeping city. He signs. Look. He points to the moon. It is huge, a pearl hanging in the black velvet sky. Then he points to the rooftops. You see them? Silhouettes. Dozens of them. They are moving across the ridges of the roofs. They are agile, leaping from chimney to chimney. The Moonwatch, he signs. They never sleep. These are the elite sentries. They don't patrol the streets. They patrol the skyline. They are looking for smoke, illegal fires, for light illegal gatherings, and for people like you, illegal climbers. You duck down behind a gargoyle. The gargoyle is shaped like an owl with no beak, a mute predator. The scholar taps your shoulder. He pulls a small object from his pocket. It's a piece of chalk. He starts to draw on the slate tiles. He draws a diagram of the palace. He marks the throne room. Then he marks the dungeon. And finally, he draws a line connecting them. The spine, he writes. It's the main pneumatic tube. It's the one that carries the vibration from the organ to the throne. He points to a structure nearby. Squat, heavy tower with a domed roof. The air intake. If you can block the intake, the organ dies. The vibration stops. The king's lullaby ends. When the baby wakes up, it's going to be cranky. But more importantly, the silence will be broken. Without the masking hum of the organ below, the natural sounds of the city, the wind, the settling buildings, the distant scene might start to filter through. But first, you have to get there. And the rooftops are crawling with ninjas. You start to move. You are doing parkour in a medieval dictatorial monastery. You stay low, crab walking along the gutters. The tiles are slippery with frost. One slip and you slide off into the abyss. You reach a gap between buildings. It's about 6 feet as you jump on the ground, terrifying jump at 500 feet. The scholar looks at you. He grins. It's a reckless, youthful grin on an aged face. Jumps. He lands silently, rolling on his shoulder to absorb the impact. Show off. You jump. You land. Your foot slips on a patch of moss. You flail. You grab the gutter. Your fingers dig into the cold lead. You pull yourself up. Your heart is pounding so loud you're sure the moon watch can hear it. You make it to the air intake tower. 'Tis guarded, of course. 2 sentries stand by the ventilation grates. They are looking out, scanning the horizon. You can't fight them. Can't distract them with noise. They'll just alert the others. You need a diversion. The scholar taps his chin. He looks around, spots a chimney nearby. It has a cowl on it, a metal hood that spins with the wind to improve the draft. He crawls over to it. He jams his chalk into the pivot mechanism. The cowl stops spinning. The wind catches it, shudders. Creak. It's a tiny sound. Metal on metal as the guards turn their heads. Creak, groan. The wind pushes harder. Screech. It's not loud, but it's irregular. It's irregular. It's annoying. One of the guards sighs visually and walks over to investigate. He thinks it's just a maintenance issue. That leaves one guard. The scholar looks at you. He makes a cutting motion across his throat. Whoa. Easy there, Grandpa. Shake your head. No killing. He rolls his eyes. He mimes sleep. Okay. Sleeping is fine. You creep up behind the remaining guard. You use the sleeper hold, a pinch to the carotid artery. It's silent, bloodless, and effective. The guard slumps. You catch him before he hits the tiles. You drag him into the shadows. The other guard is still wrestling with the chimney cowl. Screech, damn wind, he's probably thinking. You slip past him and into the ventilation tower. Inside, it is a wind tunnel. It's massive fans, powered by clockwork, not electricity, are spinning, sucking air down into the depths. The suction is powerful. You have to hold on to the ladder to keep from being pulled in. This is the breath of the city. The scholar points down. Deep below, you can see the red glow of the furnace that heats the air for the organ. If you block this, the fire starves. The pressure drops. The music dies. But how to block it? You don't have a giant cork. The scholar points to the guard's cloak. It's heavy wool. And the guard's armor. And the guard himself. Too dark. You look around. There are sacks of coal stored here for the emergency heaters. You grab a sack. The scholar grabs a sack. You stand over the main intake fan. The count of 3. 1, 2, 3. You drop the sacks. They hit the fan blades. Thwack. The blades are sturdy brass, but the sacks are heavy. The coal scatters. The wool tangles in the gears. Grind, crunch, clang. The noise is horrific. It echoes down the shaft like a dying dragon. The fan shudders. Sparks fly. It slows down. Whump, whump, whump. Then it stops. Jammed. The suction dies. The wind stops howling. Silence falls over the tower. But it's a different kind of silence. It's the silence of a broken machine. Below you, the red glow of the furnace begins to dim. The air is no longer feeding the fire. The scholar looks at you. He signs, "It is done." But then an alarm triggers. Not a sound alarm. A light alarm. Flares shoot up from the palace walls. Red flares. The heart has stopped. The Moonwatch turns toward the tower. You see them running across the rooftops, converging on your location like a swarm of silent spiders. You are trapped. The scholar looks at the blocked fan, then at the roof hatch. He grabs your arm, points to a wire. A zip line? No, it's a telegraph wire. It's a clothesline. It stretches from the tower down to the lower city. It's thin. It's rusty. Go, he signs. What about you? He shakes his head. He pulls out the guard's sword. He stands by the hatch. He's going to hold the door. I am old, he signs. I have shouted my truth. You must carry it. You don't want to leave him. But you hear the boots on the roof. You grab the heavy leather belt from the unconscious guard. You throw it over the wire. You look at the scholar one last time. He is standing tall, sword in hand, a smile on his face. He brings a finger to his lips, then blows a kiss. You jump. Gravity takes you. You slide down the wire, picking up speed. The wind rushes in your ears. The city blurs beneath you. Behind you, the door bursts open. Shadows swarm the scholar. You see the flash of steel. Then you are flying over the wall, over the silent streets, descending into the dark maze of the slums. You land hard on a pile of hay in a stable yard. Oof. You lie there, staring up at the tower. The red flares are still burning. The machine is broken. The king's lullaby has stopped. Now the real noise begins. You hit the hay pile with a force that knocks the wind out of you. For a moment you just lie there, staring up at the sliver of sky between the leaning buildings. The red flares from the palace are still painting the clouds with strokes of blood. You're alive. The scholar is. Well, you try not to think about that. He chose his ending. You went out loud. You scramble out of the hay, brushing stalks from your clothes. You are in the artisan district now, specifically the quarter of the gears. This is where the silent machinery of the kingdom is built. It's quiet here, but it's a mechanical quiet. The smell of oil and sawdust hangs heavy in the air. You need to find a place to hide. The Moonwatch will be combing the city. You spot a workshop with a door slightly ajar. A sign above it depicts a bird made of brass. The Clockwork Guild. You slip inside. The room is a wonderland of automata. Looks like a toy store for a melancholic giant. There are shelves lined with mechanical animals, dogs that wag their tails but don't bark, cats that chase woolen balls but never meow. In the center of the room stands a life-sized orchestra, are mannequins made of polished wood and brass. They hold lutes, harps, and flutes. They are moving. The conductor, a mechanical man with a powdered wig, waves a baton. The lute players strum. The flute players lift their instruments to their painted lips, but there is no music. The strings of the lutes are made of rubber. The flutes have no air holes. It is a phantom orchestra. Visual music. You watch, mesmerized. It's eerie. The movements are perfect, synchronized to a rhythm you can't hear. It's like watching a GIF on a loop. Then you notice a man sitting at a workbench in the back. He is wearing a leather apron and magnifying goggles. He is tweaking the spring of a mechanical nightingale. He hasn't seen you. You freeze. You're an intruder in his shop. But he doesn't look like a threat. He looks obsessed. He is completely absorbed in the tiny mechanism. Suddenly, the nightingale on his table spasms. Spring snaps, sprowing. It's a tiny sound, but the artisan flinches violently. He looks around, terrified. He grabs a cloth and throws it over the bird as if to smother the noise. He spots you. He freezes. His hand goes to a chisel on the table. You hold up your hands. Peace. You point to the red flares outside the window. He looks at the flares. His eyes go wide. He looks back at you, sees the soot on your face, the desperation in your eyes. He connects the dots. You are the cause of the flares. He doesn't attack. He doesn't run. He slowly lowers the chisel. He points to the nightingale. He signs, broken. You nod. I know the feeling. He beckons you closer. He moves a stack of blueprints to clear a space on the bench. He picks up a slate and writes, "Why did the air stop?" Do you write back? "The lullaby is over. The king needs to wake up." He stares at the words. A slow smile spreads across his face. It's not a happy smile. It's a smile of dark irony. He will not wake, he writes. He cannot. The king is not sleeping. The king is a part of the machine. He leads you to the back of the shop, behind a curtain. There is a large drawing on the wall. It's a schematic of the throne room, but it's more detailed than the one the scholar drew. This one shows the throne itself and wires. Fine gold wires connecting the king's gloves to the mechanism of the chair, and tubes connecting the chair to the floor. He is the amplifier, the artisan writes. The vibrations from the dungeon organ. They don't just comfort him, they power him. Rather, he powers the city. The artisan explains through drawings and signs that the king is a bioconductor. The silence isn't just a law. It's a requirement for the signal purity. The king's nervous system is linked to the city's grid of silent energy. The heating, the water pressure, the automata. His brain waves, amplified by the crystal throne and the organ's vibration, synchronize the movements of the machines. That's why the guards move in unison. That's why the traffic flows perfectly. They're all subconsciously tuned into the king's frequency. It's a hive mind. Low-level telepathic field maintained by a deaf man on a vibrating chair. You stare at the drawing. This changes everything. The scholar thought it was just a lullaby, but it's a control signal, and you just cut the power, which means the hive mind is crashing. Outside you hear a commotion, not organized marching, chaos, shouting. No, not yet. But disorganized running. Things falling over. The synchronization is breaking down. People are waking up from the trance. The artisan looks at his mechanical orchestra. Conductor's arm twitches, drops the baton. Clatter. The lute player's head spins around 180 degrees. Whir, the flute player falls. Over, crash. The artisan laughs. A silent, shaking laugh. Entropy, he signs. Beautiful entropy. But he knows you aren't safe here. The moon watch the elite guard are likely shielded from the signal. They will be the only ones still functioning with purpose, and they will be hunting you. He points to a trapdoor in the floor. Why does everyone have a trapdoor? Is it a zoning requirement? The old canal, he writes. At least the outer wall, go. You thank him. You grab a small mechanical bird from the shelf, a souvenir. Or maybe a distraction. You drop into the canal. It's dry. The water was diverted years ago. Now it's just a muddy trench running under the city. You run. You can feel the city trembling above you. Not from an earthquake, but from the collective shudder of a society losing its rhythm.
Oh, you.
The massive fortifications loom above you. But something is wrong. The guards on the wall, they aren't standing still. They are wandering. One is sitting on the parapet, dangling his legs. Another is looking at his halberd like he's never seen it before. The discipline is gone. You climb the stairs to the ramparts. You pass a guard. He looks at you. He blinks. He doesn't attack. He looks confused. He rubs his temples. Headache, he whispers. He spoke. The spell is breaking fast. You reach the edge of the wall. The valley stretches out before you, dark and misty. Freedom. But you stop. You look back at the city. The red flares are dying out. The lights in the houses are coming on. You see movement in the streets. People are coming out of their homes. They are looking up at the sky. They are looking at each other. And then you hear it. It starts as a low murmur, a ripple, then a shout, then a laugh, then a scream. The dam is burst. The silence is over. It's a cacophony. It's ugly. It's beautiful. It's human. But amidst the noise, you hear a new sound. Mechanical sound. Click-clack, click-clack, coming from the palace. The automata. The king's personal guard. Not the human ones. The metal ones. The artisan's drawing showed them connected to a backup generator. They are coming to restore order. They're coming to silence the noise. Permanently. You see them marching out of the palace gates. They're tall, made of brass and iron. They have no faces, just smooth metal plates. And they have blades for arms. They are marching into the city, cutting down anyone who is making noise. The chaos turns to terror. The people are screaming, which only draws the machines faster. You can't just leave. You broke the system, and now the backup system is killing everyone. You have to stop the machines. But how? They don't have ears. They don't have fear. You remember the mechanical bird in your pocket. You pull it out, you wind the key, the spring is tight, you look at the bird, it's a fragile thing, but the artisan gave it to you for a reason. You look closely at the base. There is a symbol etched into the brass. A frequency wave. No, it's a map. A map of the master switch. It's back in the palace. Of course it is. You have to go back. You groan. You just escaped the palace, escaped the dungeon, escaped the roof, and now you have to go back into the grinder. But looking at the brass soldiers slaughtering the confused civilians, you know you have no choice. The return to noise isn't a celebration yet. It's a war. You turn away from the freedom of the valley and run back toward the burning heart of the city. This time you won't be silent. You draw your dinner knife. You bang it against a metal railing. Clang, clang, clang. Hey, tin cans, over here, you shout. It feels good to yell. 3 of the brass soldiers turn their heads toward you. Their optical sensors glow red. They change course. They are coming for you. Good. That's 3 fewer killing the civilians. You start to run, leading them on a chase through the winding streets, making as much noise as humanly possible. We're the Pied Piper of decibels, and you are leading the rats away from the children. You are running through the streets of the Forgotten Kingdom, screaming at the top of your lungs. It's a surreal experience. For the last 24 hours, you've been tiptoeing around like a librarian in a minefield. Now you're practically auditioning for a heavy metal band. You bang your knife against drain pipes, kick over trash cans, and yell gibberish just to keep the acoustic signature high. Behind you, the click-clack whir of the brass automata is getting closer. These things are relentless. They don't breathe, they don't tire, and they don't seem to appreciate your vocal performance. They just march their bladed arms, scything through the air with terrifying precision. You need to get them away from the residential district and loop back toward the palace. The map on the mechanical bird indicated that the master switch is located in the clock tower, not the ventilation tower you jammed. But the actual timekeeping mechanism in the central spire? It makes sense. If the king is the conductor, the clock is the metronome.
At the time?
Stop the army. You round a corner and almost run smack into a wall of people. It's a mob, but not a panicked mob. It's an angry one. They are armed with table legs, cobblestones, and heavy iron skillets. They aren't running from the machines. They are forming a barricade. A woman in a baker's apron sees you. She sees the brass monsters behind you. She screams. A real, raw, throat-shredding scream of rage. Not today. She hurls a rolling pin. It bounces off the brass chest of the lead automaton with a satisfying thunk. It doesn't damage the machine, but it slows it down. The machine pauses, processing the impact. The mob surges forward. They're clumsy, loud, and disorganized, but there are hundreds of them. They swarm the 3 machines you lured. They're jamming debris into the gears, smashing the optical sensors with rocks. It's man versus machine, medieval edition. You take advantage of the chaos. You slip past the brawl and sprint toward the palace. The gates are open, the guards have abandoned their posts or joined the riot. You dash across the courtyard, dodging a stray arrow and a flying chicken. Seriously, the chickens are having a rough day. You reach the base of the clock tower. The door is locked. You look for a keyhole. There isn't one. It's just a complex series of rotating discs with symbols on them. A combination lock. You pull out the mechanical bird. You wind it up again. It hops in your palm. It turns its head left, then right, then pecks 3 times. Left, right. Peck, peck. You mimic the movement on the locked discs. Click. The door swings open. God bless that paranoid artisan. You rush inside. The tower is filled with the deafening ticking of massive gears. TIC, K-Talk. TIC, K-Talk. It's loud enough to rattle your teeth. It's the heartbeat of the city magnified. You start to climb the internal stairs. They wind around the central drive shaft. As you climb, you notice something disturbing. The gears are wet, not with oil. With pink fluid, you look closer. It's nutrient paste, or alchemical fuel. It's dripping from tubes connected to the mainspring. This isn't just a clock, it's a feeding system. The entire tower is an IV drip for the city's infrastructure. You reach the top chamber. The master mechanism. It's a kaleidoscope of brass wheels, spinning dizzyingly fast. In the center is a pendulum. But instead of a brass bob, the weight at the end of the pendulum is a glass sphere. Inside the sphere is a human heart, beating. It's suspended in the pink fluid. Wire electrodes are stabbed into the muscle tissue. You gag. This is the heart the flares warned about. It's not a metaphor, it's a literal, disembodied heart, kept alive by alchemy, regulating the pulse of the automata army. Whose heart is it? It's the king's grandfather, the first silencer. Doesn't matter. It needs to stop. You look for a brake lever. There is none. You look for a shut-off valve. None. The only way to stop it is to break it. You look around for a weapon. You spot a heavy wrench lying on a workbench. You grab it. It weighs about 10 pounds. You approach the pendulum. It swings past you with a whoosh. You have to time this perfectly. If you miss, the pendulum will knock you off the platform and you'll fall into the gears. Whoosh. Whoosh. You grip the wrench. Sorry, heart, you whisper. You swing. Crash. The glass sphere shatters. Pink fluid explodes everywhere. The heart falls onto the metal grating. It twitches once, then stops. The pendulum loses its momentum. It swings wildly, off balance, then crashes into the escapement mechanism. Screech, crunch, grind. The sound is agonizing. Metal teeth strip metal teeth. Its main drive shaft twists and snaps. The tower shakes violently. Outside, the effect is instant. The brass automata freeze mid-step. Their red eyes go dark. They topple over like toy soldiers. The click-clack stops. The screaming stops. A new silence falls over the city. But it's not the heavy, padded silence of the ban. It's the stunned silence of survival. You collapse against the railing, covered in clock fluid and sweat. You did it. Right. The army is deactivated. The hive mind is broken. The king is. Well, probably very confused and possibly powerless. But you're not done yet. You hear a cough, a biological cough. You spin around. Standing in the doorway of the mechanism chamber is a figure. He's wearing the crimson robes of the inner circle. He is holding a crossbow, pointed at your chest. It's the scribe, the one from the throne room. He looks disheveled. His hat is askew, but his eyes are cold and sharp. You are a very noisy guest, he says. His voice is smooth, cultured. He speaks perfectly. You destroyed the heart of the founder, he says, gesturing to the shriveled muscle on the floor. Do you have any idea how hard it is to source a replacement? You stare at him. You can talk. He laughs. Of course I can talk. We all can. The inner circle, I mean. The silence is for the cattle. It keeps them manageable. It keeps them productive. He steps closer, the crossbow steady. The king is a battery. The people are the workforce. And we, the scribe, the magistrate, the high priest. We are the engineers. We built a perfect society. No dissent. No rebellion, just productivity and peace, he sneers. Till you showed up with your clumsy feet and your loud curiosity, he aims for your heart. Any last words? Make them loud. Enjoy the novelty. You look around, you are trapped. Behind you is the shattered mechanism. In front of you is a crossbow. Now you need a distraction. But you've used the mechanical bird. You've used the journal. You've used the coal sacks. You have nothing left except your body and the biological reflex that almost got you killed earlier. Oh, you feel it. The tickle in your nose. The dust from the shattered clock. The pink fluid fumes. It's building. The scribe tightens his finger on the trigger. You take a deep breath. You tilt your head back. Ah, the scribe hesitates. Is this a plea? A scream? Chew. It is the mother of all sneezes. Violent, wet, explosive. And because you are standing in a clock tower filled with fine metal dust, the sneeze expels a cloud of particulate matter directly at the scribe. He flinches. He blinks. In that split second, his aim wavers. You throw the wrench. Spins through the air. THW-ACK. It hits him square in the forehead. He drops the crossbow. He stumbles back. He trips over his own heavy robes. He falls backward, out the open door of the mechanism chamber onto the stairs. You hear him tumbling down. Thump, thump. Then silence. You stand there, sniffing. You wipe your nose on your sleeve. Bless me, you whisper. You walk to the edge of the tower and look out. The sun is rising. The pink light hits the city. The streets are full of people. They're standing over the fallen machines. They are looking up at the tower. They see you. A tiny figure silhouetted against the rising sun. Someone cheers. It's a ragged, ugly cheer. Then another. Then thousands. It's a roar. A chaotic, beautiful roar of freedom. Forgotten Kingdom is forgotten no more. It is loud. It is messy. It is alive. You make your way down the tower. Stepping over the unconscious or worse scribe, you exit into the courtyard. The mob surrounds you, but they aren't attacking. They are cheering. They are patting your back. They are trying to talk to you, their voices rough and cracking from disuse. "Thank you," a woman croaks. "Loud," a child says, laughing. Loud. You smile. You are exhausted. You are covered in goo. You just want a nap. But first, there is one last loose end. The king. What happens to a battery when you unplug it? You push through the crowd toward the throne room. The golden doors are open. You walk across the glass bridge. The crystal throne is dark. Oh, the light has gone out. The king is slumped forward. The heavy headdress has fallen off. You approach cautiously. It's an old man, a very old, frail man. He is breathing, shallow breaths. He opens his eyes. They are milky white, blind. So he was deaf and blind, a perfect vessel. He lifts a trembling hand. He touches his ears. He smiles. He can feel the vibration of the cheering crowd through the floor. It's a different kind of vibration than the organ. It's irregular, it's organic. He seems relieved. He closes his eyes and settles back into the chair. He is no longer a king. He is just a tired old man who can finally rest without the hum of the machine in his bones. You turn and walk away. The people are surging into the throne room now, curious, angry, hopeful. They will decide what to do with him. It's their revolution now. You are just the noise that started the avalanche. You walk out of the palace gates. You find your russet cloak where you hid it. You put it on. You walk toward the main gate. The gate of the hush. It is wide open. The guards are gone. You walk through the tunnel, past the indigo tapestries. You see someone tearing them down to make blankets. You step out into the valley. The mist is clearing. You take a deep breath of the cold, unfiltered air. You turn back one last time. The city is roaring. It sounds like a football stadium. It sounds like a marketplace. It sounds like life. You reach into your pocket. You find the sunflower seeds the gardener gave you. You toss them onto the ground near the gate. Make some noise. You whisper to the invisible birds. And you begin the long walk back to the noisy, chaotic, wonderful world you came from. The morning light has fully breached the valley walls now, turning the gray mist into a blinding gold. You're walking away from the city, but the sound of it follows you. It's a distant roar, like the ocean, composed of thousands of newly liberated voices testing their range. It's messy, dissonant, and completely uncoordinated, but to your ears, it's the sweetest symphony ever composed. You reach the ridge where you first looked down upon the forgotten kingdom. You stop to adjust your pack. Your shoulders ache, your legs feel like lead, and you're fairly certain you have clockwork fluid drying in your hair. You look back. Smoke is rising from the city, not the angry red flares of the alarm, but the gray, lazy smoke of cooking fires. Real fires. Someone is probably burning a Silence is Law banner to roast a chicken. You sit on a rock. You need a moment. Adrenaline crash is hitting you hard. Your hands are shaking. You pull out your water flask. It's warm, but you drink it greedily. As you sit there, you think about the ritual of the sun. The outline promised you a section on this. It seems fitting to reflect on it now as the sun climbs higher. You witnessed it briefly from the library window before everything went to hell. It was terrifying in its precision. Every morning, as the sun hit the highest spire, the entire population would stop what they were doing. They would turn to the east. They would kneel. And they would open their mouths in a silent scream. It was called the exhale. The doctrine said they were expelling their inner noise to purify themselves for the day. They were offering their breath to the sun. It looked like a city of ghosts screaming in purgatory. But now, down there, you can imagine the ritual has changed. Today they aren't screaming silently. They are shouting. They are laughing. They are crying. The exhale has become a shout. The sun doesn't care either way. It just shines. But for the people, the difference is everything. You think about the scribe, the arrogance of the man. The silence is for the cattle. It's a classic authoritarian playbook. Restrict communication, to prevent organization. If people can't talk, they can't plot. If they can't gather, they can't revolt. The sign language was a clever workaround by the people, a way to reclaim connection, but it lacked the visceral, emotional power of the voice. You can't shout a riot with your hands, not really. Sound is primal energy, it breaks barriers. You stand up, your knees pop, crack, you smile. That sound used to terrify you. Now it's just biology. You start walking again. The path leads up out of the valley, toward the mountain pass that will take you back to civilization. Back to traffic jams, back to barking dogs, back to arguments in coffee shops, back to music that you can hear, not just feel. You never thought you'd miss the sound of a leaf blower, but right now you'd hug a landscaper. As you crest the final hill, you see a figure waiting for you. It's the gardener. He is sitting on a fallen log, whittling a piece of wood. Small bird, a real one, a robinus, perched on his shoulder. He sees you. He stands up. He doesn't bow. He smiles. A wide, toothless smile. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out something. It's a whistle. A simple wooden whistle he just carved. Puts it to his lips. Tweet. It's a high, piercing sound. It cuts through the cold air. He hands it to you. You take it. It's warm from his hands. For the road, he says. His voice is rusty, like gravel in a mixer, but the words are clear. Thank you, you say. He points down the path. Go. The world is loud. You nod. Yes, it is. You put the whistle in your pocket. You clasp his hand. His grip is strong, calloused from years of silent labor. He turns back toward the city. He has work to do. Gardens to replant. Peacocks to heal. But you turn toward the horizon. You walk for hours. The landscape changes as the mossy, sound-dampening rocks give way to granite and pine. The wind picks up, whistling through the trees. You hear the distant rush of a river. You reach the border of the kingdom. There is no gate here, just an old stone marker. On one side, facing the valley, it says, Silentium. On the other side, facing the world, it is blank. You stop. You take out your knife. You carve a new word into the stone. Vox. Voice. You cross the line. Instantly, the world feels different. The pressure in your ears pops. The air feels lighter, less curated. You hear a cart rattling down the road ahead. The driver is singing a bawdy song about a maid and a miller. He is off-key. He is loud. It is terrible. You grin. You hurry to catch up to him. Hail, you shout. The driver pulls on the reins. Whoa there, need a lift, traveler? Yes, you say yes, I do. You climb onto the cart.
The wood creaks, the horse snorts, the wheels grind against the dirt.
Where are you coming from? The driver asks, spitting a sunflower seed shell onto the road. You look back at the mountains, shrouded in mist. Nowhere, you say. Just a quiet place. The driver laughs. Well, you're in luck. I talk enough for two. And he does. He talks about the weather, the price of barley, his wife's gout, the king's taxes. He talks for 3 hours straight. You listen to every single word. You drink it in like water in a desert. As the sun sets, painting the sky in shades of violet and bruised orange, you realize something. Silence is golden, yes. It has its place, but noise. Noise is life. Noise is the messy, chaotic, beautiful signal that says, I am here. I exist. I matter. You lean back against the sacks of grain. You close your eyes. Cart rattles on. Bump, bump, creak, rattle. It's the best lullaby you've ever heard. The cart ride eventually leads you to a bustling port town, a place that smells of salt, tar, and unwashed bodies. It is an assault on the senses in the best possible way. The noise is a physical wall, seagulls screaming, sailors shouting insults, barrels rolling on cobblestones, a bell tolling from a church tower. You step off the cart and just stand there, letting the cacophony wash over you. It feels like waking up from a long, strange coma. You find a tavern, a real one, the Drunken Mermaid. The sign creaks in the wind. Inside, it is dark, smoky, and deafeningly loud. A bard is strumming a lute in the corner, competing with a group of merchants arguing over the price of silk. You order a drink. The barmaid slams a tankard of ale onto the table. Bang. She laughs at a joke. Someone yells from across the room. You take a sip. It tastes like freedom. But as you sit there, you find yourself doing something strange. You are watching hands. You see two sailors talking. But under the table, one of them is tapping his knee. Tap, tap. Pause. Tap. You recognize the rhythm. It's the code from the dungeon. You look closer. The sailor isn't just tapping. He's making small, subtle hand signs. A flick of the wrist. Crossed finger. You freeze? Is the guild of hand and eye here? Did the silence follow you? You look around the room. You start to notice it everywhere. People are talking, yes. But their bodies are saying something else. A merchant smiles and agrees to a price, but his left hand is making the sign for lie. A couple is laughing. But the woman's hand on the table is signing help. You realize that you haven't escaped the language of the silence. You've just learned to see the subtext of the world. The Forgotten Kingdom wasn't an anomaly. It was a magnification. In every conversation, there is a silent layer. There is always a second dialogue happening in the twitch of an eye, the tension of a shoulder, the restless movement of fingers. You are now fluent in the unspoken. It's a superpower and a curse. You will never be able to take words at face value again. You finish your drink and head to the docks. You need to find a ship. You need to put an ocean between you and the memory of the pink fluid and the beating heart. You find a captain looking for passengers. He's a gruff man with a beard full of crumbs. Where to? He grunts. Anywhere loud, you say? He laughs. The storm coast sound good? Thunder all night? Waves that smash ships to splinters? Sounds perfect. You say you board the ship. It's called the Banshee. Fitting, as the ship pulls away from the dock, you stand at the rail. Bid. The town shrinks in the distance. The noise fades, replaced by the rhythmic crashing of the waves and the creaking of the rigging. You reach into your pocket and pull out the wooden whistle the gardener gave you. You turn it over in your hands. It's simple, rough-hewn. You put it to your lips. You don't blow it. You just hold it there. You realize you don't need to make noise to prove you exist anymore. You know you exist. The silence didn't erase you. It defined you. It showed you the edges of your own soul. You drop the whistle into the ocean. It bobs for a moment in the white foam of the wake, then vanishes. Yes. A small sacrifice to the gods of the deep. A promise that you will keep the balance. You will speak when you need to speak, and you will listen when you need to listen. Okay. But you will never, ever hold your tongue out of fear. The wind picks up. The sails snap full. The ship heels over, cutting through the water. You look up at the crow's nest. A sailor is up there, scanning the horizon. He looks down at you. He waves. You wave back. Then, just for fun, he cups his hands around his mouth and yells, "Land ho." Just kidding. You laugh. Real belly-shaking laugh that carries out over the water. It feels good to be noisy. But there is one last thing nagging at you. The journal. The one you lost in the alley. Did the guards burn it, or did someone find it? Someone found it. The secrets of the kingdom are out. The diagrams, the history, the truth about the Deaf King. Maybe, just maybe, you weren't the only spark. Maybe the book is traveling hand to hand, eye to eye, spreading the story of the silence. Maybe other cities will learn. Maybe they will start to listen to the spaces between the words. You imagine a child finding the book, reading about the silent market, the velvet floors, the visual music. You imagine them trying the signs in the mirror. Truth is silence. Then shaking their head and signing. Truth is loud. You smile. The story isn't over, just changing languages. The voyage on the Banshee is long and deliciously loud. You spend days listening to the groaning timber, the snapping canvas, and the sailor's creative cursing. You sleep like a baby, rocked by the ocean, surrounded by the white noise of the elements. It's a detox for your soul. One night, you were sitting on the deck with the ship's cook, a one-eyed man named Barnaby who plays the accordion. He's terrible at it. The instrument wheezes and squeaks like a dying seal, but you applaud every song. You appreciate the arts, Barnaby says, beaming. I appreciate the effort, you say, in the volume. He tells you stories about the places he's been, islands where the trees sing, caves that echo forever, cities where people talk by whistling. It makes you realize that the Forgotten Kingdom was just one extreme in a world full of sensory variety. Some places are too loud, some are too quiet. The trick is finding the frequency that resonates with you. As the weeks pass, you start to write. It's not a journal, but a guide, a traveler's guide to the unspoken. You draw the hand signs you remember. You describe the architecture of silence, the curved walls, the porous wood, the oil fountains. You write about the danger of echo chambers, both literal and metaphorical. You write about the king who was a battery. You write about the sparrow in the hedge. You realize that you have a responsibility. You are the only one who knows the full story. The people of the kingdom are free now, but they will need to rebuild. They will need to learn how to live with noise without letting it destroy them. And the outside world needs to know, too. They need to know that silence can be a weapon, but it can also be a sanctuary if chosen freely. The ship finally docks at the storm coast. It lives up to its name. Lightning splits the sky, and thunder rolls like giant bowling balls in the clouds. You step off the ship, your guide tucked into your pack. You walk into the town. It's chaotic, muddy, and vibrant. You see a street performer juggling fire. The crowd is cheering. You stop to watch. A little girl next to you tugs on your sleeve. "Mister," she says, "can you juggle?" You look at her. You smile. You hold up your hands. You make the sign for bird, then fly, then free. Her eyes go wide. "What's that?" "Magic," you say. "Silent magic." You teach her the sign for friend. She clumsily copies it. She laughs. You walk on. You leave a trail of signs behind you, tiny seeds of a silent language planted in a noisy world. Eventually, you find an inn. You get a room. It has a window that overlooks the stormy sea. You sit at the desk. You open your book. You write the final entry. The silence is not empty. It is full of answers. But you have to be brave enough to ask the questions out loud. You close the book. You blow out the candle. You lie in bed, listening to the thunder. Boom. It rattles the window pane. Boom, it shakes the floorboards. You smile. You close your eyes. And finally, surrounded by the beautiful, terrifying noise of the world, you find peace.